the zombie emperor in American comics. Hello again, dear adventurers of the multiverse. Thanks for joining us once more on this epic journey. Remember, this story is pure science fiction from our wild imagination, so don't go trying to summon dragons in your backyard. The rights of this amazing novel belong entirely to its original author. We are only the narrators. Do you want more adventures? Show some love to our YouTube channel with a subscription and a like, and if you want exclusive content, our Patreon is waiting for you with open arms. Chapter 1, The corpse suddenly appears on the battlefield. The blood-red sunset gradually faded, and the rumble of artillery fire and the thick smoke of gunpowder obscured the sun. The valley battlefield was littered with corpses, and broken limbs and body parts were scattered everywhere. Blood dyed the ground red, forming streams. In the distance, the roar of gunfire continued fiercely, unabated by the arrival of night. Remember, this was the battlefield of World War II, a war that engulfed the entire world. Although it was a relatively small, localized battle, the Allied and the enemy forces were equally fierce, with soldiers on both sides fighting with reckless abandon. Suddenly, a slight spatial fluctuation emerged, ripples streaking through the air. A bloodied and utterly disheveled figure silently appeared in the valley. It was a Chinese man, his face extremely pale, his eyes closed, and he was no longer breathing. His 185 centimeters tall frame was covered in burn wounds, his flesh turned inside out, a bloody mess, and a terrifying, hideous appearance. He stood out in this battlefield, indistinguishable from the bodies of the others killed by artillery shells. Moreover, the firepower of both sides had long since shifted, and this place was merely another burial site on the battlefield. Yet, no one noticed as the blood in the valley silently converged towards a single point, the target being the body of the Chinese man. Time ticked by, the gunfire continued without a pause. Suddenly, the Chinese man's eyes opened. They were a pair of dark gray, vertical pupils, devoid of whites, cold and emotionless, eyes that were not meant for humans. The Chinese man lay quietly on the cold, damp earth, his gray eyes unmoving as he stared at the endless night sky. Smoke and dark clouds obscured the moonlight and the stars, leaving his gaze filled with a desolate scene, seemingly devoid of any allure. After an unknown amount of time, the Chinese man's gray eyes moved slightly. He tried to move, but pain ripped through his body, a burning pain that made him gasp. Damn Madonna, you deserve to be alone forever, and the women of your Ma family deserve to be alone, the Chinese man cursed bitterly, mentally cursing her. Seeing this, many people could probably tell that this Chinese man was not native to this world. But this wasn't his first time traveling through time, including this, it was already his second. This Chinese man, Wang Yunxiao, was an ordinary 21st century mortal. While not from a prominent family, he had a happy family. Over the years, he and a friend had founded an information network company, earning a considerable income. Not only did they have no worries about food and clothing, but whenever he had free time, he took his family on vacations far and wide. One day, Wang Yunxiao, in his spare time, was rewatching My Date with a Vampire, one of his favorite TV series, and he was filled with envy for the immortal zombies in the show. That's immortality. Not only him, but even the most powerful emperors of ancient times would tirelessly pursue it. As for zombies' need for blood, that wasn't a big deal to Wang Yunxiao. Everything comes at a price, right? However, when Wang Yunxiao inexplicably traveled to the world of My Date with a Vampire and lucky enough to become one of the immortal zombies, reality wasn't as rosy as he'd imagined. The constant bloodlust that consumed him, how could a 21st century person easily accept it? And when Wang Yunxiao took his first step and sucked the blood of a bully, his bloodlust only grew uncontrollable. Fortunately, he still retained a vestige of his former humanity and refrained from indiscriminately killing innocents, targeting only the thugs and bullies. Unfortunately, the good times didn't last long. Before Wang Yunxiao could imagine a bright future, he was targeted by Madonna, the current heir of the Ma family, the dragon exorcist clan, while feeding zombies, born from the resentment and foul energy of heaven and earth, are immortal, undying, and indestructible. Abandoned by the three realms of heaven, earth, and humanity, they wander the six realms of sentient beings, homeless and homeless. In the human world, they feed on resentment and consume the blood of all living things, venting their endless loneliness. Uncontrolled by the six realms, they possess an infinite lifespan. This doesn't mean zombies are invincible. Exorcists are, to some extent, zombie nemesis, capable of utterly annihilating them. The Ma family, The Dragon Exorcist clan are among the most elite among them. Furthermore, Wang Yunxiao was only an ordinary 4th-generation gray-eyed zombie, newly minted, roughly 3 times stronger than an average human. How could he possibly stand a chance against Madonna? Thus began Wang Yunxiao's endless escape. Under Madonna's relentless pursuit, he had no chance to eat, his body growing increasingly weak, even surpassing that of an ordinary human. Finally, after 2 weeks, he was trapped by Madonna, a situation where he had no way out. Facing the mighty Ma family exorcist dragon god, Wang Yunxiao's heart was filled with sorrow. Could it be that his journey through time and space would end in less than 2 months? This was truly the most tragic of all the time travelers, wasn't it? Just as Wang Yunxiao was being attacked by the Ma family exorcist dragon god, a mysterious spatial wave emerged, swallowing the seriously injured and unconscious Wang Yunxiao. When he awoke again, he had now traveled through time for the 2nd time, arriving in this war-torn world. Where is this? Am I not being hunted by the witch Madonna? Could it be that the witch, captivated by my handsome face, has decided to let me go? Stretching helplessly on the cold and damp valley floor, Wang Yunxiao was still somewhat bewildered. Boom boom boom, da da da, the sound of gunfire continued incessantly. Wang Yunxiao quickly gathered his thoughts. It looks like this is a battlefield, one where firearms are quite advanced. Have I time traveled again? The world he first traveled through, my date with a vampire, was the 1920s and 1930s, when firearms were not very advanced. Damn it. I traveled to this kind of place. Are they trying to kill me again? Wang Yunxiao thought angrily. His current situation was definitely not much safer than the world of my date with a vampire. While zombies are said to be immortal, that only applies without external interference. At least in his current state, a regular 4th-generation gray-eyed zombie, even ordinary gunfire and artillery would cause considerable damage, not to mention those exorcists. If he were accidentally blasted to pieces, he would be utterly destroyed. I'm going all out on this new project, aiming to update around 8,000 words daily to ensure it's complete. I hope new and old readers will continue to support Yunxiao by bookmarking and subscribing. The old pit is on hold and will be reorganized when I have time. After all, whether it is martial arts or animation, they are all content that Yunxiao likes. Chapter 2, Trapped in a Trouble. Wang Yunxiao was now on the battlefield. With no battlefield experience, his chances of survival were likely no greater than those of the soldiers. However, after 2 consecutive time travels and having experienced life and death, Wang Yunxiao's mental state had been greatly improved, and he was now able to face most situations with composure. With a thought, streams of blood from the valley rapidly converged towards him. Blood was not only essential for zombie survival, but also the source of their power. Regardless, for Wang Yunxiao now, the most important thing was to quickly recover his strength, which would allow him to find a glimmer of hope on the treacherous battlefield. On the battlefield, blood was in short supply, whether from allies or tax collectors, or even from corpses. While not as good as fresh blood, it could still play a significant role in his recovery. Most importantly, in this chaotic battlefield, neither side of the fierce battle had pleased to monitor Wang Yunxiao, a visitor from another world, which gave him a great advantage. As time slowly slipped away, Wang Yunxiao absorbed all the blood in the valley. While this was only a drop in the bucket for his severe injuries, it at least restored some mobility. Enduring the constant burning pain in his body, Wang Yunxiao struggled to move to another blood-filled area, nourishing himself with the blood. This fierce battle lasted for 7 days and 7 nights. Nourished by the blood of hundreds of corpses, Wang Yunxiao finally made some progress. While not yet at peak strength, he had regained basic mobility and was in good physical condition, no worse than an ordinary soldier. After their defeat, the Allies temporarily retreated and began to clean up the soldiers. The bodies were piled together and burned to prevent widespread plague or other diseases. Naturally, Wang Yunxiao was discovered by the Allies. Fortunately, the chaotic battlefield and his previous cautious actions prevented him from revealing his zombie identity. Facing the glaring muzzles of dozens of guns, Wang Yunxiao surrendered without hesitation and was escorted and imprisoned. He didn't want to experience the feeling of being gagged again, just after recovering somewhat. He was certain that feeling would be extremely unpleasant. Confined in the small, dimly lit cell, Wang Yunxiao's thoughts raced as he began to carefully consider his next move. From conversations with the soldiers guarding him, Wang Yunxiao had clearly learned that this world was embroiled in World War II. While he wasn't sure what kind of world it was, or whether exorcists existed, he knew that firearms posed a significant threat, especially since he hadn't fully recovered yet. This meant that Wang Yunxiao couldn't afford to recklessly wander around in this world, especially on the battlefield. At least until he reached the third-generation yellow-eyed zombie stage, capable of withstanding most firearms, he would have to carefully cultivate himself. And even if Wang Yunxiao achieved this, he wouldn't dare to recklessly do anything. He knew that with the end of World War II, global technology was rapidly advancing, and human surveillance was becoming increasingly strict. He didn't want to reveal his identity and become a public enemy. As a former human, he clearly understood the principle that those not of my kind must have different hearts. Therefore, Wang Yunxiao's first priority was to find a legitimate identity in this world. However, in this chaotic wartime, this wasn't a major problem. Countless people around the world had been torn apart, displaced, and their identities impossible to trace. As long as he could pass the Allied review, he should be able to secure a new identity. Next, he needed to find a way to fully recover and enhance his zombie bloodline. No matter the world, strength was paramount. However, in this chaotic wartime, death and blood reigned supreme, the very nourishment of his zombie bloodline. However, ideals were beautiful, but reality was cruel. In a blink of an eye, Wang Yunxiao had been imprisoned in this cell for over 3 days. After a long period without blood, his physical and bloodthirsty cravings had driven him nearly insane. But he truly dared not move. This was the Allied camp. If he dared to lose his temper, he would be shattered in an instant, not to mention escape. Wang Yunxiao had no choice but to endure, suppressing his intense bloodlust. He couldn't guarantee that if he died again, he would have another chance to travel through time. Damn it. Hold it in, hold it in. In the small, dimly lit cell, Wang Yunxiao kept mumbling to himself, his incoherent words making the guards wonder if he had some strange illness. Zombies' vampire instinct is natural, especially for one like Wang Yunxiao, who had already sucked the blood of living people. That instinct couldn't be overcome by sheer willpower. Unfortunately, the Allies showed no sympathy for Wang Yunxiao. Since detaining him as a suspicious individual, they had no energy to pay attention to him, let alone the subsequent investigation he longed for. But this wasn't surprising. The war was urgent. Although the rebels had been temporarily repelled, they could launch a counterattack again at any moment, forcing them to focus all their energy on this task. Little did the Allies know that they were imprisoning a beast poised for a moment, one consumed by bloodlust. While firearms could slay it, the losses they would incur in the process would be devastating. Perhaps, even before the rebels launched another attack, they would be torn apart. Damn it, 2 more days passed, and Wang Yunxiao had reached a breaking point, on the verge of losing his mind completely. Knock, knock, knock. With his remaining sanity, Wang Yunxiao knocked on the rusty cell door, hoping to attract the guards' attention. What are you doing? What are you doing? You damned yellow monkey, are you courting death? The armed guard strode over and pounded on the cell door with the butt of his rifle. It's no wonder that the guard was so angry. He had been tortured enough in the past few days, especially in the last 2 days. This psychopath would mutter incessantly, and roar and scream from time to time, not letting him have a moment's peace. What's more, he himself is a strong racist. Bang! The huge sound of knocking on the door shook the earth and rocks of the entire prison, as if it would collapse at any time. This scared the guard, and then he was ashamed and angry. In his eyes, Wang Yunxiao's behavior was even more naked provocation. I will go all out to open a new pit, strive to update about 8,000 words every day, and try my best to ensure that the book is completed. I hope that new and old readers will continue to support Yunxiao and collect and subscribe. The old pit is temporarily suspended, and I will reorganize it when I have time. After all, whether it is martial arts or anime, they are all content that Yunxiao likes. Chapter 3 Killing and Recovery. Crack, a series of tiny noises echoed outside the cell, as the guard opened the cell door. Fury had already overwhelmed him, and he had only one thought in mind, to teach Wang Yunxiao a lesson. He might even shoot him. These were turbulent times, especially on the battlefield. The death of someone like Wang Yunxiao, especially one of Asian descent, was no big deal. At most, it would amount to a few days of solitary confinement. And in times of intense war like now, perhaps even solitary confinement wouldn't be necessary. with only a few words of caution. Squeak, the cell door swung open, and the guard rushed in, his face grim and menacing. The prisoners in the neighboring cells all wore gloating grins. Unlike Wang Yunxiao, they were all captured by the enemy, caught spies, or defecting allies. Bang, the cell door slammed shut, but to the inmates' surprise, no sound of thrashing or screaming escaped. Inside the small, dimly lit cell, Wang Yunxiao grasped the guard's neck and pinned him against the wall. He kicked with his feet off the ground, flailing his arms in despair, but with no resistance at all. The guard rolled his eyes, his struggles fading. Just as he seemed on the verge of death, Wang Yunxiao released him, 4 sharp fangs emerging, and bit into his neck. The fresh blood thrilled every cell in Wang Yunxiao's body. The euphoric feeling was indescribable. Perhaps this was the most wonderful feeling in the world. Furthermore, having drunk the blood of a living person for the first time since crossing into this world, Wang Yunxiao experienced a profound recovery. Not enough. This is not enough. Wang Yunxiao's dark gray pupils shone with a cold, bloodthirsty light. He snatched the cell key from the guard's waist and strode out of the cell. Oh my god. It's that yellow-skinned monkey coming out. Hey, bastard, let us out. The other prisoners, though somewhat surprised that it was Wang Yunxiao, didn't question it further. They immediately urged him to release them. His words were devoid of any politeness, but rather filled with arrogance. Wang Yunxiao expressionlessly opened the door of a cell and, before the prisoner inside could react, strode in. With a clang, the door slammed shut, and the prisoner, lucky enough, became his blood sustenance. Damn yellow-skinned monkey, what's wrong with him? Are you looking for death? At this point, the other prisoners finally realized something was amiss and, in panic, shouted curses. Cell doors opened one after another, revealing the prisoners within as nourishment for Wang Yunxiao's blood, sacrificing themselves for his complete recovery. Roar! Wang Yunxiao roared softly, suppressing the urge to roar to the heavens. At that moment, he felt exhilarated. Having traveled through this chaotic world, he had finally regained his peak strength within this dimly lit cell. Calming down, Wang Yunxiao urgently considered what to do next. This cell had to be properly managed. The guard and the prisoners' deaths couldn't be discovered by outsiders, or his zombie identity would be exposed. Destroying the bodies was easy, a single fire would do the trick. But this was a prison on the Allied front. If Wang Yunxiao did that, he would inevitably antagonize the Allies. Even if his zombie identity wasn't exposed, it would still bring him endless trouble. This was completely contrary to his expectations. Wang Yunxiao, versed in history, knew better than anyone that the Allies ultimately won World War II. The United States, in particular, has experienced rapid technological and economic development, becoming the world's most powerful nation and earning the title of international police. Therefore, it's best to avoid antagonizing the Allies if possible. Although Wang Yunxiao had regained his composure, time was running out. The prison guards were rotated regularly, and if they weren't on time, the Allies would be alerted. Time ticked by, and Wang Yunxiao's deep gray eyes alternately flickered between rationality and coldness. He still hadn't come up with a good solution. Finally, the heavy iron gates outside the prison slowly opened, and a small group of Allied soldiers entered, armed and ammunition in hand. The guards hadn't yet completed their rotation, prompting the attention of the Allied officials, who cautiously dispatched personnel to investigate. Clang, as the iron gates closed again, the soldiers, their guns raised, cautiously advanced through the dimly lit prison corridors. Elsewhere, Wang Yunxiao immediately noticed something was amiss and quietly retreated to a secluded location. Although he had fully recovered, his physical fitness now surpassed 3 times that of an average person, making it easy for him to deal with ordinary Allied soldiers. He still preferred not to make too much noise if possible. Tramp, 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 the dull sound of footsteps echoed as the squad of soldiers finally entered the cell. The sight they saw made their pupils constrict. Inside each cell were shrunken corpses. Oh, God! What's going on? Is this the devil? The soldiers cried out in shock. Even though they were accustomed to witnessing life and death, the sight before them still sent a chill down their spines. Their hands and feet froze, and even the hands holding their rifles trembled. Go. Check what's going on. A soldier who looked like a captain kicked a nearby soldier and gave a deep command. Without waiting for the soldier to respond, the captain pointed his rifle at the other 2 and shouted, "You go too." Yes, the 3 soldiers, stunned, exchanged glances, daring not to disobey. They tightened their grips on their submachine guns and tremblingly approached one of the cells. Squeak! The cell door was unlocked and easily opened. Suddenly, the three soldiers felt a chilling breeze, sending shivers down their spines. They faltered, nearly dropping their submachine guns. "Hey, what are you doing? Go check it out," the captain, not understanding the soldiers' current state of mind, or perhaps even if he did, wouldn't have cared. He urged them on again. At that moment, Wang Yunxiao, lurking in the shadows, finally moved. Like an arrow shot from a bow, he darted into the crowd, leaving a trail of afterimages in the air. There were only a few muffled bangs, and the soldiers collapsed to the ground. "I'm going all out to open a new plot, striving to update around 8,000 words every day, and try my best to ensure the completion of the book. I hope new and old readers will continue to support Yunxiao and collect and subscribe. The old plot is temporarily suspended, and I will reorganize it when I have time. After all, whether it's martial arts or anime, it's all content that Yunxiao enjoys." Chapter 4: A Battle. When the three soldiers in the cell noticed the unusual situation outside and turned to investigate, they were met with fists the size of sandbags. Bang, bang, bang. The three soldiers followed the others. Of course, Wang Yunxiao didn't kill the soldiers outright. The essence of a living person's blood is vastly different from that of a corpse, no matter how long ago the body had been dead. After draining the blood of each soldier, Wang Yunxiao's strength didn't increase much. This wasn't surprising. Advancing into the zombie bloodline wasn't easy. However, he wasn't in a rush. World War II would continue for years, and he would have an endless supply of blood to consume. He believed that quantitative change would lead to qualitative change, and his ascension to the third generation of yellow-eyed zombies was not impossible. However, for now, Wang Yunxiao must properly address the current situation if he wants to integrate safely into the world. Time is running out. It's likely that the abnormalities in the cell will soon be discovered outside, and the situation will escalate. Boom, boom, boom. Just as Wang Yunxiao was rapidly mulling over a countermeasure, the rumble of artillery fire suddenly erupted overhead. A thought struck Wang Yunxiao, a glint flashing in his eyes. He quickly approached the prison gate, listening intently for what was happening outside. Outside, in the Allied camp, the sounds of artillery fire, gunfire, and clamor filled the air. It seemed as if the Japanese had launched a surprise attack, catching the Allies unawares. A good opportunity, Wang Yunxiao's mind raced, a sound plan quickly forming in his mind. He didn't act immediately. While the tax collector's attack was fierce, the Allied camp wasn't in chaos yet. It wasn't the right time for him to act. As the clash of gunfire intensified, Wang Yunxiao quietly opened the prison gate a crack and cautiously peered outside. With the battle raging, it seemed no one would have the energy to pay attention to what was happening here. Inside the camp, the tax collector's vanguard had already entered. The Allied forces, caught off guard, were being forced back, clearly unable to hold the camp. Without hesitation, Wang Yunxiao darted out of the cell, his figure as swift as a ghost, heading for the nearby warehouse he had already observed. There, he smelled gasoline and gunpowder. Having fully recovered, not only was his physical fitness 3 times that of an average person, but his 5 senses, hearing, vision, smell, touch, and feeling, had also been elevated to more than 3 times their normal capabilities. When Wang Yunxiao's ghostly figure darted out of the warehouse and back into the cell, he already held a gasoline barrel and a box of bombs in his hands. Back in the cell, Wang Yunxiao's hands were constantly moving, distributing the bombs throughout the cells and then dousing them with gasoline, continuing to the cell gates. Only then did he return to closely monitor the fighting within the camp. Seeing the right moment, Wang Yunxiao leaped out of the cell again, flicked his lit lighter, and plunged back into the now secured cell. Boom, boom, boom. Violent explosions echoed from the cell, drowning out the roar of intense fighting within the camp, and the very ground shook violently. The air choked. The sudden change startled both sides, momentarily forgetting their exchange of fire, and staring blankly in the direction of the prison where the explosion had occurred. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Wang Yunxiao dodged into a trench, carefully concealing himself, and quietly biding his time to withdraw. After a brief moment of daze, the fierce exchange of fire resumed, even more ferocious than before. While the sudden explosion in the prison surprised them, stray bullets and subsequent explosions on the battlefield were not uncommon. Besides, They didn't have the energy to focus on such matters right now. Fortunately, this recent incident gave the Allies a chance to stabilize their position and return to a level starting line with the enemy. While the previous brief clash had inflicted heavy losses on the Allies, they had previously held the upper hand in this localized battle. With a difference in strength, the difference in forces was now nearly even. Seeing this, Wang Yunxiao shifted his focus, but instead of withdrawing immediately, he considered the possibility of joining the Allied forces. Let's do it. Wang Yunxiao finally made up his mind and picked up a sniper rifle nearby. If his plan was right, he should have a good chance of securing a good position. Before this, Wang Yunxiao had barely touched a firearm, but that didn't mean he was completely clueless. At least he'd played plenty of the shooting games that were once so popular in the 21st century. The principles were the same, and after just a few tries, he'd mastered the sniper rifle's operation. As for accuracy, with 5 senses over 3 times stronger than an average person, his skills were comparable to those of top special forces soldiers, and that was just his first experience with firearms. Bang, 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 bullets blasted out of the sniper rifle's muzzle. The first few shots were a bit off, but Wang Yunxiao soon mastered the technique and began ruthlessly harvesting the lives of soldiers one after another. But Wang Yunxiao's sniper position was soon discovered by the enemy, who immediately launched heavy fire. Fortunately, Wang Yunxiao had prepared himself and relocated his position, avoiding the incoming fire. Finding a suitable sniping spot, Wang Yunxiao continued his relentless slaughter of enemy soldiers. Furthermore, this time, he learned his lesson, not only focusing on key fire points but also relocating his position before the enemy's heavy fire could reach him. Wang Yunxiao shifted his sniper position again and again, eliminating one key fire point after another, truly creating a significant problem for the enemy. The Allies, evidently quick to recognize his sharpshooter, began to coordinate with Wang Yunxiao in their counterattacks against the enemy, gradually gaining the upper hand. Like a tireless and merciless reaper, Wang Yunxiao relentlessly harvested the lives of enemy soldiers, earning him not only a deep hatred from the tax collectors but also amazement from the Allies themselves. Precise sniping not only consumes enormous physical strength but also consumes enormous mental energy. No one has ever been able to maintain such long-term, uninterrupted precision. And it was precisely because of Wang Yunxiao's sudden intervention that this surprise attack, which was originally a sure win and had been planned for who knows how long, ultimately ended in failure. Don't say that on the modern battlefield. Individual ability can't influence the outcome of a battle. That's simply because the individual's strength is not enough. After all, Wang Yunxiao is a 4th-generation zombie, with physical fitness and 5 senses more than 3 times that of an ordinary person. Although it's far from the human limit, it is enough to influence the situation in this small-scale battle. I will go all out to open a new project, strive to update around 8,000 words every day, and do my best to complete it. I hope new and old readers will continue to support Junzio by collecting and subscribing. The old project is temporarily suspended and will be reorganized when I have time. After all, whether it is martial arts or anime, it is the content that Junzio enjoys. Chapter 5 New Identity. It's you. Inside the Allied camp headquarters, the Allied officers stared at Wang Yunxiao in astonishment, their eyes filled with disbelief. Who are you? One of the Allied officers asked in a deep voice, his sharp gaze never leaving Wang Yunxiao's body. Wang Yunxiao displayed just the right amount of nervousness and quickly replied, "Hello, General. My name is Wang Yunxiao. As you can see, I'm of Chinese descent. I immigrated to Europe with my family during the Japanese invasion, but Europe fell, and we were caught in the war. My family was brutally murdered by the Japanese, and I was captured and forced to build fortifications for them." "You're lying." Before Wang Yunxiao could finish, another Allied officer interrupted him harshly, saying in a deep voice, "You say you're just an ordinary Chinese immigrant, but how do you explain your advanced tactical proficiency? It's not much different from the most elite soldiers." Wang Yunxiao scoffed at the Allied officer's arrogance, perhaps even his boasting. Was he only slightly inferior to those so-called elite soldiers? Even the world's most elite special forces soldier would struggle to reach his current level. On the surface, Wang Yunxiao feigned a certain indignation, seemingly angered by the general's suspicion. He protested, "General, if you understand Chinese history, you'd know that we have martial arts. They can make us stronger and sharpen our senses." "Really?" the Allied officer sneered. "If your martial arts were truly that powerful, Why were they invaded by a tiny nation? This, Wang Yunxiao's face flushed. There was an element of expression in this, but also a sense of being speechless. Regardless, the allied officer was right. While the allied officer scoffed at Wang Yunxiao's talk of martial arts, someone else took it to heart. They looked at Wang Yunxiao with interest and asked, "So, interesting little Chinese fellow, what are your plans? You've performed a great service today, and we always treat those who have contributed well. If you wish, I can have you escorted back to safety, Brigadier General Willittle," the allied officer said, looking at Willittle with disapproval. This completely contradicted their previous agreement. While Wang Yunxiao had made significant contributions in the just concluded battle, to them, he was still a suspicious individual with an unknown identity, requiring close scrutiny. Especially regarding the complete destruction of the prison, they refused to believe that Wang Yunxiao had anything to do with it. "Alright, Brigadier General Huntley, I'm the commander here. I'll take responsibility for any problems." Willittle calmly glanced at the disgruntled Huntley and interrupted him. "So, little one, what's your decision?" Willittle returned his gaze to Wang Yunxiao. A perfectly balanced expression of struggle crossed Wang Yunxiao's face, as if he were making a difficult decision. Willittle didn't press him, quietly awaiting his decision. After a long pause, Wang Yunxiao finally spoke with difficulty. "General, I don't want to return to the rear. I want to join the army. I want to avenge my fallen family, is that so? Are you sure? The battlefield is no joke." "I hope you'll consider it carefully," Willittle confirmed calmly. Although Wang Yunxiao's choice was exactly what he wanted, he didn't show his emotion, a sign of his shrewdness. "Old fox," Wang Yunxiao cursed inwardly, but remained calm, nodded heavily, and said firmly, "General, I've made my decision." As he spoke, his eyes flushed slightly, a deep hatred flickering in them. "Very good. Little one, remember, America is a very inclusive country. As long as you sincerely join us, we will treat everyone equally." Willittle looked at Wang Yunxiao gently. "Yes, General, I will definitely contribute my strength to America," Wang Yunxiao tactfully promised. "Keep going, little one." Willittle walked up to Wang Yunxiao, patted him firmly on the shoulder, and said solemnly, "Soldier, in light of your previous performance, I will now make an exception and promote you to the rank of sergeant. I'll look forward to your continued success." "Yes, thank you, General." Wang Yunxiao saluted formally, his expression filled with excitement. Willittle then ordered someone to take Wang Yunxiao down to complete the relevant formalities. With this, Wang Yunxiao finally gained his desired legitimate identity in this world. The headquarters did not quiet down after Wang Yunxiao's departure. Instead, the debate intensified. Brigadier General Huntley was the first to explode, shouting angrily, "Brigadier General Willittle, although you are the commander here, you should not be too reckless. That guy's identity is unclear, and he has extremely high military qualities. Keeping him in the army is a very dangerous and stupid decision." Upon hearing this, Brigadier General Willittle showed no anger, and said calmly, "Brigadier General Huntley, and everyone, this battle has dragged on for too long. Every day, every moment, I don't know how many young and strong guys have lost their lives here. In order to end this battle as soon as possible, we must unite all the forces we can unite. Just relying on that guy," Brigadier General Huntley sneered, "who do you think he is? Is he God? Can he guide us to victory? But you also acknowledge his exceptional military prowess, capable of swinging the tide of battle at crucial moments." Just like before, Willittle tapped the table and said gravely, "Hey, men, perhaps one king won't help us win this battle quickly, but what about more? I mean, we need to unite our forces. A king is just the first step." The other officers exchanged glances, most of them agreeing. Willitter's words made sense. If there were more super warriors like Wang Yunxiao, victory might indeed be within their grasp. Then how can you guarantee that guy isn't a spy sent by the government? You know, his background is murky, huh? Huntley silently agreed with Willitter's words, but he still managed to argue. Besides, what he said made sense, didn't he? "Don't worry, I'll keep a close eye on him." Willitter's eyes gleamed with an inexplicable glint. "I will do my best to open a new pit, strive to update about 8,000 words every day, and try my best to ensure the completion of the book. I hope new and old readers will continue to support Junzio and collect and subscribe. The old pit is temporarily suspended and will be reorganized when I have time. After all, whether it is martial arts or anime, They are all content that Yunxiao likes. Chapter 6, First Encounter with the Marvel Universe. On the smoke-filled battlefield, the roar of artillery, gunfire, screams, and wails intertwined into a bloody symphony. Countless soldiers holed up in trenches, firing relentlessly forward. Among the crowd, a single yellow-skinned soldier in a U.S. military uniform stood out. It wasn't because the soldiers were all white or black, but rather the expression on his face, a stark contrast to the fear, worry, and numbness on the faces of the others. It was cold, calm, bloodthirsty, even reveling? That's right, reveling. This yellow-skinned soldier reveled in the battlefield, completely immersed in this bloody symphony. His sniper rifle spewed flames, reaping the lives of one enemy after another. And beneath the surface, unnoticed, streams of blood silently flowed down his body, pressed against the ground, into his body, nourishing every cell. This yellow-skinned soldier was Wang Yunxiao, who had recently assumed a new identity and plunged into this brutal war. Over 3 months had passed since he'd assumed his new identity as a U.S. soldier. During these 3 months, the Allied forces and the tax collectors had engaged in numerous clashes, each one providing him with a perfect opportunity to plunder fresh blood for nourishment. However, there was one thing: during this time, Wang Yunxiao had rarely had the opportunity to consume the fresh blood of a living human, even from a civilian soldier. This effectively limited the improvement of his zombie bloodline. Unavoidably, due to his murky origins, Allied officers like Willittle kept a close watch on him, preventing him from making any rash moves. However, that period seemed to be coming to an end, perhaps after this battle. Wang Yunxiao could already clearly sense the change in attitude towards him from Allied officers like Willittle, even Brigadier General Huntley, who had initially disliked him. Of course, all of this was Wang Yunxiao's own doing. Over the past 3 months, he had not only performed brilliantly in every battle, but also claimed the lives of nearly 20 Allied officers, several of them both male and female. Allied officers like Willittle had witnessed all of this. If this could be a spy, then the Allied forces were recklessly willing to sacrifice him. Boom! Suddenly, a shell exploded a few meters from the trench, sending clouds of dust and smoke billowing into the air. Wang Yunxiao, with his keen sense of danger, took evasive action. But his fellow soldiers in the trench weren't so lucky, with dozens instantly falling to the ground. "Hey, men, are you alright?" Wang Yunxiao asked, glancing at the large, dark-skinned figure beside him. This large, dark-skinned figure was Nicholas Joseph Fury, formerly Willittle's personal guard, but now assigned to serve as Wang Yunxiao's deputy. On the one hand, it showed Willitter's appreciation for him, but on the other, it also served as a tacit understanding of his purpose. Wang Yunxiao certainly felt a little awkward at first, but he was fully aware of his situation and saw no reason to refuse. Besides, having a capable assistant on the battlefield was a valuable asset. For no other reason than the way he used his sniper rifle as a semi-automatic, he needed a second-in-command to help him change and reload the weapon. Sniper rifles of that era weren't nearly as powerful as they are today. And to be Willitter's personal bodyguard, Fury's military proficiency was impeccable. He was undoubtedly a top-tier Special Forces soldier. A formidable assistant. What could he possibly be dissatisfied with? More importantly, from the moment he saw Fury, Wang Yunxiao felt he looked very familiar, though he couldn't quite place his identity. After much deliberation and, after spending time with Fury, he finally confirmed who he was. The name Nicholas Joseph Fury might not be familiar to everyone, but if it were Nick Fury, any Marvel movie or anime fan would be well aware of him. The renowned director of SHIELD, the intermediary between the US government and the Avengers, and a secret wallkeeper and spy, is no stranger to Marvel fans. It was only after initially confirming Fury's identity that Wang Yunxiao deduced that he had traveled to the Marvel Universe, a universe of unparalleled combat prowess and a plethora of powerful individuals, where even cosmic overlords could easily crush a planet. The only consolation was that he had traveled to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, not the even more perverse and unparalleled Marvel Anime Universe. As for Wang Yunxiao's reasoning, Fury's appearance bears a near 90% resemblance to Samuel L. Jackson, a renowned film and television star from the 21st century. Of course, further research was needed to determine the specifics. However, even the Marvel Cinematic Universe fueled a growing sense of urgency within Wang Yunxiao. This world was even more terrifying than the one he'd previously traveled through. My date with a vampire. Not only was its technology more advanced, But there were also countless individuals with astronomical combat prowess. A single careless act could lead to their demise without a trace of knowledge. Even Earth's guardian, the Ancient One, the Sorcerer Supreme of Kamartaj, should have been aware of Wang Yunxiao's existence, and his destruction would be a simple matter of a wave of the hand. As for why the Ancient One hadn't approached him immediately, perhaps he simply didn't take him seriously, or perhaps he was too busy battling the threats of the multiverse to pay attention. Regardless, Wang Yunxiao felt incredibly fortunate to have assessed this world situation immediately and to have immediately considered the terrifying Ancient One. He also felt even more cautious about wasting time. He hoped that the Ancient One wouldn't turn his attention to him until he had developed the necessary self-preservation skills. In the previous world of My Date with a Vampire, Amir Madonna, a mediocre character, had chased him to the point of no return. In this world, even if Ancient One had personally taken action, even sending a few of his disciples would have been a tragedy. "I'm fine, but I have to thank you, you pervert," a somewhat dusty Fury grinned, revealing a set of brilliant white teeth. He was right. After 3 months of being together, he had long since noticed Wang Yunxiao's keen anticipation of danger. Whenever Wang Yunxiao made any evasive or dodging moves on the battlefield, he would immediately follow. This had indeed saved him from countless crises. "I'm going all out on this new project, aiming for around 8,000 words per day to ensure it's complete. I hope new and old readers will continue to support Junzio by adding more books and subscribing. The old project is on hold, and I'll revisit it when I have time. After all, whether it's martial arts or anime, it's all Junzio's favorite content." Chapter 7, Lone Hero. "You bastard, be careful. I don't want to be the flag bearer after the war," Wang Yunxiao cursed with a smile, then emerged from the trench again, his sniper rifle spewing flames again. Bang, bang, bang. Immediately, he ruthlessly harvested the lives of several more soldiers. "Don't worry, as long as you survive, I won't die." Fury, who thought he had found the secret to battlefield survival, grinned again, revealing his huge white teeth. It's no wonder that in his youth, Fury was cheerful, humorous, and even a bit of a clown, making him much more pleasing to the eye. Boom, boom, boom. However, before Wang Yunxiao could fire a few shots, several more shells landed a few meters in front and behind the trench. The even more violent explosion shook the entire trench, and several sections collapsed, burying the soldiers who couldn't escape in time. This time, not only the others, but even Wang Yunxiao was utterly shattered and dazed. If not for his powerful zombie body, he would have been seriously injured, and that was after avoiding the blow in advance. Fury, beside him, was half a bloody mess. Fuck. Those bastards must be crazy. Instead of suppressing our heavy firepower, they're actually targeting this place, Wang Yunxiao cursed angrily. Then, nudging Fury beside him, he shouted, "Hey, men, say something. Are you really dead?" "Not bad, not dead yet," Fury replied grumpily, adding, "But soon." A seasoned warrior, he had long since become indifferent to life and death. Even facing death, his face showed no sign of panic. "Don't worry, with me here, you can't die," Wang Yunxiao said, taking a deep look at the miserable Fury, as if he had made a decision. "Hey, men, don't mess around," Fury said quickly. Although they had only been together for a little over 3 months, he could already see that Wang Yunxiao was no pushover. "If we don't do something, we'll just be waiting for our bodies to be collected after the battle," Wang Yunxiao snapped back. He grabbed a nearby submachine gun, took a deep breath, and launched himself forward like a cannonball. No matter how Fury shouted, it was too late. Fuck. This guy is such a lunatic, Fury couldn't help but curse, but a flicker of emotion flashed in his eyes. He knew that if he hadn't been a burden, Wang Yunxiao would never have resorted to such a desperate measure. However, even if he wanted to help, he was powerless now. Amidst the intertwined fire, a ghostly figure scurried forward, hugging the ground. Passing through mounds, trenches, and fortifications along the way, Wang Yunxiao weaved his way towards the enemy's artillery positions at top speed. Naturally, some enemy soldiers spotted Wang Yunxiao's whereabouts, but they were always shot into oblivion by Wang Yunxiao. The bullets in his submachine gun were exhausted, but in this chaotic battlefield, the most abundant thing was guns and ammunition. He could restock them anywhere and at any time. Though Wang Yunxiao's circuitous advance was swift, he remained impassive. He wouldn't play with his life, and every move was made with complete confidence. Finally, Wang Yunxiao successfully circumvented the enemy's front line. From then on, he no longer dared to fire lightly, lest the enemy detect him. Cautious, cautious. Wang Yunxiao silently approached each unavoidable enemy position, relying solely on his bayonet to dispatch the enemy soldiers in a split second. He even had to forego the opportunity to feast on the blood of the living. Closer, closer. The enemy's artillery positions were within Wang Yunxiao's range, and each unfired shell was the enemy's ultimate death warrant. Patiently searching for a hidden position, least likely to be discovered by the enemy, Wang Yunxiao quietly thrust his gun through the darkened muzzle. Da-da-da, the submachine gun blazed with flames, bullets landing precisely on the exposed shells. Without hesitation, Wang Yunxiao dropped to the ground, his body pressed against the ground. Boom. Boom boom boom. First, a violent explosion, followed by a continuous, deafening roar. The entire enemy artillery position erupted in flames, shattered by the ferocious blast. The enemy soldiers, without even the slightest chance to react, were shattered to pieces and engulfed in the relentless flames. The massive blast swept in all directions, ruthlessly destroying and engulfing everything in its path, like a Category 8 hurricane. Wang Yunxiao's position was not spared, instantly destroyed and collapsed, burying him alive beneath. Fortunately, as long as he wasn't hit head-on by a shell, this level of burial wouldn't kill him. It took a long while for the aftermath of the explosion to dissipate. Buried alive, Wang Yunxiao dared not act rashly, listening intently to everything outside. He knew the enemy was doomed to defeat, but unfortunately, he was right on their retreating route. He couldn't face the retreating enemy alone. Sure enough, soon, heavy footsteps could be heard near Wang Yunxiao's burial site, even directly above him. Simultaneously, a continuous barrage of gunfire echoed. Had he shown his face earlier, not only would the retreating enemy troops, but even the barrage of allied bullets would have riddled him like a hornet's nest. Not long after, another barrage of heavy footsteps and rapid firing echoed, signaling the allied forces' pursuit. Once everything was clear, Wang Yunxiao carefully lifted the rubble and dust that had weighed him down and crawled out in a panic. Glancing at the receding allied forces, Wang Yunxiao didn't chase them or join their pursuit, instead quickly returning to his original trench. While the allies' victory was significant, and someone would likely clean up the battlefield and treat the wounded, who knew that unfortunate Fury wouldn't be left behind? He felt it necessary to rescue the future director of SHIELD and further strengthen their relationship. However, when Wang Yunxiao returned, Fury had already been rescued and placed on a stretcher. Sure enough, he was one of the protagonists, wasn't he? Tisk tisk, lucky guy, you're not dead after all. There's a saying, good men don't live long, but evil lingers for 1,000 years. I knew you wouldn't die so easily. Wang Yunxiao took 2 steps forward, teasing Fury with a smile. Fuck. You actually pulled it off. You lunatic, this is incredible. Has the world gone mad? Fuck. Fury erupted in anger upon seeing Wang Yunxiao, his expression becoming even more akin to a madman. I will do my best to open a new pit, strive to update about 8,000 words every day, and try my best to ensure the completion of the book. I hope new and old readers will continue to support Junzio and collect and subscribe. The old pit is temporarily suspended and will be reorganized when I have time. After all, whether it is martial arts or anime, they are all content that Junzio likes. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 8 Super Soldier Project. Report, Wang Yunxiao, dressed in his crisp American second lieutenant uniform, shouted outside the headquarters. After 3 months of fighting in several battles, especially the one just now, his rank had steadily climbed, and he was now a second lieutenant. Of course, this was also due to Willitle's appreciation and wooing, otherwise, his rank wouldn't have risen so rapidly in such a short period of time. Come in, Willitle's powerful voice echoed from inside the headquarters. Wang Yunxiao entered the headquarters, greeted by approving glances from Willittle and other allied officers. Good boy. Willittle strode forward, patted Wang Yunxiao's shoulder firmly, and exclaimed, Wang, you really haven't disappointed me. It won't be long before your heroic deeds spread throughout the Allied forces, and your name will be known to everyone. This is all thanks to the general for promoting you, Wang Yunxiao said modestly, without a trace of arrogance. That depends on your own ability, haha. Williter laughed contentedly, patting Wang Yunxiao's shoulders several times. Then, changing the subject, he said, however, Wang, I hope you return home with the wounded this time, General. May I know why? Wang Yunxiao frowned slightly, dissatisfied with Williter's arrangement. After enduring more than 3 months of hardship, he finally gained the trust of Williter and his men. He was counting on a great slaughter in the upcoming war, drinking the blood of the soldiers, but to be sent back home for no apparent reason was completely inconsistent with his plan. How could he accept this? Don't worry, it's a good thing, Williter said with a smile. The military and the strategic science department have long been working on a rebirth project, a secret experiment to create super soldiers. We recently rescued the renowned German biochemist Dr. Abraham Erskine, and this project has made a breakthrough. I'm letting you return to China to join this project. Wang Yunxiao immediately understood what was going on. Wasn't this the same super soldier project that created Captain America? And what's so interesting about this rebirth project? Williter encouraged him. Wang, I'm very optimistic about you. Your physical fitness is over 3 times that of a normal person. You're definitely the perfect candidate for this project. Yes. I obey orders. Thank you, General, for the promotion. Wang Yunxiao hesitated for a moment before loudly accepting the order. Go, get ready. Williter patted Wang Yunxiao on the shoulder and watched him leave. Brigadier General Williter, I don't think he's the right person. You're well aware of that, aren't you? Huntley couldn't help but ask as soon as Wang Yunxiao left. Why? Because he's Chinese, Williter frowned. He wasn't a racist, and he deeply disliked any such suggestion within his army. That's right, Huntley nodded calmly. Williter, you know this isn't just my opinion, nor is it simply racist. We simply believe that for such a precious opportunity, we should prioritize our own people, but there's no denying that Wang is the most suitable candidate, isn't he? Williter interrupted him bluntly. Well, then, let's wait and see. Huntley shrugged, no longer arguing with Williter, and strode out of the headquarters. The remaining officers exchanged glances and filed out of the headquarters, leaving Williter alone. Most of them shared Huntley's sentiments. While they knew Wang Yunxiao might be the most suitable candidate, that was just how Americans were, proud Americans. Damn it. Damn racism, Williter cursed irritably, his eyes filled with resentment. He knew Huntley was right, but in his opinion, if the U.S. continued to cling to narrow-minded racism and bury its talent, when would it ever achieve victory in this war that had engulfed the entire world? Wang Yunxiao was unaware of what was happening within the headquarters, but he could guess that the U.S. government would never use such precious super soldier serum on him. The possibility of that happening to the black people, let alone him, was slim to none. But even with this knowledge, Wang Yunxiao wasn't disappointed at all. He believed the so-called super soldier serum could only push a person to their limits. The crucial issue is that he was now a zombie, no longer considered human. Who knew if the super soldier serum would work on him, or if it was even more likely to backfire? While Wang Yunxiao was destined to miss out on the super soldier serum, he could still look forward to the blood of Captain America being born from it. He didn't necessarily need to drain Captain America dry, and Wang Yunxiao didn't dare do so. As the chosen one of this world's most fortunate, who knew what unpredictable and dire consequences might ensue? Wang Yunxiao needed to verify whether the blood of a superhuman like Captain America would enhance his zombie bloodline. If confirmed, he would have more options. The Marvel Universe was never short of superhumans like superheroes or supervillains. Furthermore, after some research, Wang Yunxiao discovered a difference between his zombie bloodline and the zombies he remembered from My Date with a Vampire. Whether due to the Marvel Universe's rules or the effects of his time travel, he couldn't simply suck the blood of Captain America to create offspring, but instead had to inject his own zombie blood into the target. This will inevitably limit Wang Yunxiao's ability to develop his bloodline descendants, hindering his ability to rapidly develop. The zombie blood essence within him is limited. If too much is lost, it will inevitably affect his own strength, making the gains more than they deserve. Wang Yunxiao once silently sensed the zombie blood essence within him. Sadly, at his current level, he couldn't even develop a single bloodline descendant, leaving him speechless. However, this also has a positive side. Wang Yunxiao will no longer have to worry about sucking blood from the victim, as long as he doesn't leave obvious traces, such as zombie teeth marks. Even if he doesn't drain the victim's blood completely, he won't have to worry about spreading the corpse poison. The victim will not die, except for severe blood loss. I'm working hard on this new project, aiming for approximately 8,000 words per day to ensure it's complete. I hope new and existing readers will continue to support Yunxiao by adding and subscribing. The old project is on hold, and I'll revisit it when I have time. After all, whether it's martial arts or anime, it's all Yunxiao's favorite content. Chapter 9, First Encounter with Steve and Bucky. Furthermore, this benefit might not be immediately apparent. After all, it's wartime, and Wang Yunxiao can't afford to be overly cautious. But what about after the war? Furthermore, with future technology becoming increasingly advanced, he couldn't guarantee that every time he sucked blood, he wouldn't leave a trace. Especially in special circumstances, like this plot to take Captain America's blood. Since he didn't want to endanger his life, wouldn't a benefit be obvious? Upon returning to New York, Wang Yunxiao didn't immediately report to the Strategic Research Unit. With 3 days remaining before his official report, he could use this time to relax and gain a deeper understanding of the era. Wang Yunxiao strolled through the streets of New York, observing everything. New York in the 1940s, while not as developed as later generations, was still quite good, at least in terms of public security. There weren't the numerous gangs, big and small, or even the endless stream of supervillains that would emerge decades later. Advertisements for tomorrow's World Expo were plastered everywhere. This must be the expo organized by Howard Stark, the father of Iron Man Tony Stark. Come to think of it, am I Iron Man's uncle now? That's quite interesting. Wang Yunxiao's lips curled up slightly, and he couldn't help but laugh. Decision made. I'll go see it tonight. In a flash, Wang Yunxiao had already made his decision. However, the expo was at night, and he still had plenty of time during the day to explore New York. Bang! 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 In an alley next to the cinema, the distinct sound of blows reached Wang Yunxiao's ears, causing him to stop and watch. Don't you know how to give in? I will persevere. If I give in, I'll lose my courage. Could it be? Listening to the conversation in the alley, Wang Yunxiao's mind flickered, as if something amusing had occurred to him. He immediately strode into the alley. In the alley, a not very strong white man was beating a thin, short white man. The scene was truly unbearable to watch, like an adult bullying a child. What a coincidence. The future Captain America, Steve Rogers, seeing the familiar face of the short white man, Wang Yunxiao stopped watching and took 2 steps forward. He grabbed the white man's arm and easily tossed him aside, sneering, "How can you bully a child like that? Who are you? Mind your own business, you damned yellow monkey," the white man roared, lunging at Wang Yunxiao. "It seems your mother never taught you manners," Wang Yunxiao muttered in frustration, then kicked the white man away. However, he didn't use too much force. This was, after all, the metropolis of New York, and he didn't want to cause any unnecessary trouble. Ignoring the white man's panicked escape, Wang Yunxiao walked over to Steve, who lay sprawled on the ground in his jumpsuit. He extended a hand and asked with a smile, "Hey, man, can you stand up?" "Thanks," Steve said, grabbing Wang Yunxiao's hand and rising to his feet. Dusting himself off, he said sternly, "But, as you can see, I'm not a kid." "Oh, sorry," Wang Yunxiao apologized insincerely, causing Steve to roll his eyes. Rogers, footsteps echoed, and another white man in military uniform entered the alley. He glanced warily at Wang Yunxiao, then at Steve with a questioning look. He looked like a friend. Wang Yunxiao recognized him. It was Steve's lifelong friend, the future Winter Soldier Bucky Barnes. "He just helped me," Steve said with a shrug, annoyed. While it was clear Wang Yunxiao was joking, being poked in the face was never pleasant. Especially since he had just refused to enlist again due to his frail frame. Steve had always harbored a lofty ambition, to join the military and serve his country, contributing his part to ending the war that engulfed the world. Unfortunately, reality proved cruel. Due to his frail frame, he was repeatedly rejected. He even resorted to falsifying his draft form, a violation of the law. "Did you get beaten up again?" "Oh, my goodness, how many times has this happened?" "Sometimes I really suspect you have a masochistic streak." Bucky relaxed his guard, teasing Steve a few more times before extending his hand to Wang Yunxiao and saying, "Hello, I'm Bucky, Bucky Barnes. Thank you for helping me, Steve, and it's nice to meet you, Wang Yunxiao. Wang Yunxiao smiled and shook Bucky's hand. Steve Rogers, thank you again. I'd appreciate it even more if you wouldn't make fun of my skinny body. Steve then remembered he hadn't introduced himself, so he said it, not forgetting to express his displeasure. Okay, I will, Wang Yunxiao smiled. At that moment, Bucky bent down and picked up a crumpled piece of paper from the floor. It must have been Steve's forged draft form. After glancing at it, he shook his head helplessly and tucked it into Steve's pocket without saying anything else. After all, they had only just met Wang Yunxiao, and it was best not to bring up such a thing as forged draft forms. After all, it was a crime. Wang Yunxiao had seen it all, and while he knew what was going on, he didn't hesitate to ask. He said goodbye, nice to meet you too. See you again sometime. Hey, Wang, let me buy you a cup of coffee as a thank you, Steve quickly offered. Although he was annoyed by Wang Yunxiao's seemingly surly personality, overall, Wang Yunxiao's well-mannered demeanor didn't bother him, so he wanted to formally express his gratitude. Maybe next time. I have things to do. I'm sure we'll meet again. Wang Yunxiao glanced at Bucky's uniform, then at Steve's pocket where the draft form lay, then waved his hand and left. This guy's quite mysterious, Bucky muttered, raising an eyebrow as he watched Wang Yunxiao depart. Or are Easterners all mysterious, isn't that so? Steve curled his lips, only then noticing Bucky's uniform. He asked with a hint of envy, which unit? Sergeant Bucky Barnes of the 107th Regiment will be heading to England tomorrow, Bucky said with a slightly smug grin. He knew Steve's most coveted unit was the 107th, the regiment where his father had once served. I should go too, as expected. Steve looked a little dejected. Okay, let's go. Last night, won't you give me a farewell party? Bucky smiled, putting his arm around Steve's shoulder and striding out of the alley. I'm going all out on a new project, aiming for around 8,000 words per day, and trying my best to complete it. I hope new and old readers will continue to support Yunxiao by adding more books and subscribing. The old project is on hold, and I'll revisit it when I have time. After all, whether it's martial arts or anime, it's all Yunxiao's favorite content. Chapter 10 Phillips and Erskine. The New York night was awash in lights and a peaceful atmosphere, almost unimaginable. Far away in Europe, and indeed around the world, war was raging. A large crowd had already gathered in front of the museum. Wang Yunxiao followed the crowd into the museum, looking around with interest. He spotted a pair of figures, one tall and one short, not far away. They were none other than Steve and Bucky, whom he had just met that day. Hi, Wang. Steve and Bucky spotted Wang Yunxiao and approached enthusiastically, smiling. Are you here for the expo too? I heard the grand finale of the expo is the maglev car. It's a groundbreaking product, so I had to see it, Wang Yunxiao said with a smile. Then let's go together, Steve invited. Of course, Wang Yunxiao said. The three of them chatted and laughed as they entered the expo. The expo had just begun, and it was still early for the maglev car demonstration. Bucky glanced around and said, Hey, guys, it's such a beautiful night, shouldn't we find some pretty girls to spend it with? Wang Yunxiao shrugged, indicating he wasn't particularly interested. He couldn't quite control his zombie bloodline yet, so he had to be careful not to reveal his zombie fangs at the crucial moment. That would be a real joke. Steve glared at Bucky and said, Go ahead if you want. We'll just wander around. He was preoccupied with the prospect of successfully enlisting, and he hadn't really felt like it. Well, you're really boring. I'll leave you alone. Bucky waved his hand regretfully, then, after identifying a target, departed, embarking on his night of hunting for beauties. Besides the main attraction, the maglev car, the expo offered plenty of other things to see, ensuring attendees wouldn't be bored. And this was only a small sampling of Howard's many inventions, not to mention his weaponry, which only showed how talented Howard truly was. Wang Yunxiao was quite excited while browsing, while Steve seemed a bit less interested, seemingly still preoccupied with the draft. Wang Yunxiao couldn't offer any comfort, as their relationship wasn't quite there yet. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Howard Stark. At that moment, a graceful female voice rang out. Besides the red car and 5 voluptuous models, Howard also walked onto the stage, waving and greeting the crowd. He even kissed one of the models passionately, his playboy nature clearly on display. Ladies and gentlemen, Howard took the microphone, confidently and passionately saying, "Do you believe that in a few years, cars will fly?" As he spoke, the models removed the car's 4 wheels. Using Stark's anti-gravity technology, flying cars are possible, Howard continued, flipping a button on the console. Wow! The next moment, the car actually levitated, drawing gasps from the crowd. Crackle! Soon, sparks erupted from the car's 4 treads, and with a loud bang, it crashed to the ground. For a moment, the scene was awkward. But then, the crowd erupted in applause. Just as Howard had said, this was the future. It's quite interesting, but what a shame. Wang Yunxiao shook his head regretfully, thinking of Howard's death without realizing this technology. Then he realized that Steve had left without a trace. With his keen senses, Wang Yunxiao easily found Steve, but he didn't approach to greet him. He was currently arguing with Bucky, naturally over the military draft. "Steve, we'll see each other soon," Wang Yunxiao smiled calmly. Then turned and quietly left. He knew that soon, Steve would meet Dr. Erskine, the benefactor of his life, and not only would he enlist as he wished, but he would also become the Captain America renowned throughout the United States. The remaining 2 days flew by, and today finally arrived, when Wang Yunxiao would report to the Strategic Scientific Corps. Unbeknownst to him, everyone in the SSC was talking about him. Colonel Phillips, one of the key leaders of the SSC, was in his office, engaged in a heated discussion with Dr. Erskine, who spearheaded the Rebirth project. Erskine pointed to one of the many soldier files and nodded, "You can pay special attention to this second lieutenant named Wang Yunxiao. His physical fitness is 3 times that of ordinary people. It's incredible. The amazing Chinese people." "Sorry, Doctor, I'm afraid you will be disappointed." Phillips shook his head and denied it. "The higher-ups will not agree with your idea. This is even more impossible than the dwarf you recommended." "Why?" Erskine was a little puzzled, but he quickly reacted and said uncertainly, "Is it because he is of Chinese descent?" "Yes," Phillips said in a deep voice, "Doctor, although I also think he is a good candidate, the higher-ups will not agree, including that dwarf. So, please choose another candidate." The dwarf he was talking about was Steve. "HMPH, Erskine complained. "We agreed that I'd be solely responsible for Project Rebirth." "What's this, then?" Even more firmly, he said, "No. Their say doesn't count. I must decide the candidate, otherwise the experiment won't succeed." "Okay, Doctor, good luck then." Phillips, having worked with Erskine for some time and well aware of his stubborn character, said without further argument. "I'll convince them," Erskine declared solemnly, striding out of the office without a backward glance. "Wang Yunxiao, huh? You're a promising candidate. If Project Rebirth hadn't been successful, I'd have thought you were the super soldier we've been searching for." Phillips ignored Erskine storming off and returned his gaze to Wang Yunxiao's file. Honestly, in Phillips's opinion, if there were no better, Wang Yunxiao was the perfect candidate. He was the best soldier he had ever seen in his entire military career, bar none. He wasn't some narrow-minded racist. On the contrary, he looked down on Steve from the bottom of his heart, not for anything else, but because he was too thin and weak, even inferior to ordinary soldiers. So how could he be qualified to be a super soldier? "Let's see, if you're really as good as they say," Phillips murmured, with a gleam in his eyes. As one of the main leaders of the Strategic Scientific Corps, the burden of the Rebirth plan also fell on him. Naturally, he hoped that this plan would succeed smoothly more than anyone else. Go all out to open a new pit, strive to update about 8,000 words every day, and try to ensure that the book is completed. I hope that new and old readers will continue to support Yunxiao, collect and subscribe. The old pit is suspended, and will be reorganized when there is time. After all, whether it is martial arts or anime, they are all content that Yunxiao likes. Chapter 11 Report. Colonel, Second Lieutenant Wang Yunxiao reports to you. Wang Yunxiao's voice rang out from outside Phelps' office. "Come in." As Phelps finished speaking, Wang Yunxiao strode into the office. "Are you Second Lieutenant Wang Yunxiao?" Phelps looked Wang Yunxiao up and down, his eyebrows raised slightly, as if he couldn't believe that Wang Yunxiao, whose physical fitness was 3 times that of an average person in the file, could be so thin. Of course, the thin here was compared to those who were 2 meters tall and had strong shoulders and waists. Otherwise, Wang Yunxiao would not be considered thin no matter how you looked at him. "Yes, Colonel." Wang Yunxiao could naturally see Phelps's suspicion, but there was no need to explain. The facts spoke louder than words. "All right, Lieutenant, I look forward to your performance." Phelps wasn't one to judge a person by appearances. His suspicions were simply that Wang Yunxiao's image was so different from what he'd imagined. He immediately put aside his suspicions and said in a deep voice, "Now, I'll take you to meet your instructors and comrades." Wang Yunxiao hadn't reported directly to the training camp at Phelps's request, so he could meet him beforehand. However, it now appeared that Wang Yunxiao hadn't impressed him enough on this first meeting, so the encounter ended abruptly. On the way to the training camp, Phelps inquired carefully about Wang Yunxiao's situation, showing no disappointment or indifference. "Have you heard? That lone hero named Wang Yunxiao is coming to us. He single-handedly took out an entire artillery position. It's incredible. Is this true?" Meanwhile, within the training camp, the soldiers were buzzing with discussion. And the subject of their discussion was none other than Wang Yunxiao. They were all elite soldiers, carefully selected from various regiments, all for the rebirth plan. What they all had in common was their sturdiness, exceptional tactical proficiency, and youth, all barely in their 20s. However, there was one exception, making it seem as if something strange had slipped into the mix among these elite soldiers. That person was Steve. He was incredibly thin, and inevitably stood out from the crowd among the new recruits. Nonsense. It's been announced to the entire army, so how could it be true? "I heard he knows Chinese Kung Fu, and I wonder if I can learn it," a black soldier said, his gestures quirky and hilariously awkward. "Don't dream. You think you can learn Kung Fu?" Another sturdy white soldier interrupted the black soldier's clownish performance with disdain. "You?" The black soldier opened his mouth to retort, but the sight of the white soldier's muscular physique, far superior to his own, instantly stopped him. "HMPH, the white soldier snorted disdainfully. Just as he was about to say something else, he was suddenly interrupted by the assembly whistle and hurriedly lined up with the others. "Prepare for training, stand at attention," a cold and delicate voice rang out. Peggy Carter, the training instructor for the new recruits and Phelps' most elite female special agent, strode over. "I'm Instructor Carter, and I'll be in charge of the next part of your training." Carter's cold gaze slowly swept over the faces of the crowd. "What's that accent? Queen Victoria? Are we in the right place?" Suddenly, an inopportune voice rang out, belonging to the white soldier from before. "What's your name?" Carter looked at the white soldier expressionlessly. "Hodge Gilmore, Her Majesty," Hodge replied in a strange tone, still unable to restrain himself, and glanced around with a smug look. "Hodge, step out," Carter ordered. Hodge strode out with a swagger. Although he suspected Carter was trying to intimidate him, he pretended not to care. A mere woman, he really didn't take her seriously. But he was sure he'd soon reap the consequences. "Move your right foot forward," Carter's eyes flashed with a cold gleam. "What? Wanna wrestle? I've got a few moves you're sure to like." "Hey," Hodge remained unfazed, but he was already starting to guard his feet. After all, he'd been carefully selected, so he couldn't lack the necessary caution. However, it was clearly not enough. Suddenly, Carter delivered a powerful punch, swift and fierce, slamming into Hodge's mouth. Unprepared, Hodge fell flat on his face. "Ha ha ha!" Many soldiers burst into laughter. Steve didn't laugh, but his gaze at Carter was filled with amazement and envy. "Instructor Carter, it's really good to see you teach these brats a lesson." Phelps's laughter echoed from behind Carter. "Colonel Phelps." Carter quickly turned and stood at attention. "Get up, return to your formation, and await orders." Phelps glanced at Hodge, who was still lying on the ground, a flicker of disappointment in his eyes. Hodge was considered the most outstanding of the soldiers, but the scene before him inevitably left him feeling disappointed. Ignoring Hodge, who had returned to his formation in a panic, Phelps pointed to Wang Yunxiao beside him and introduced him. "This is Second Lieutenant Wang Yunxiao, who once bravely braved the enemy's position alone and blew up their artillery positions. I'm sure you've all heard of him, right?" "Oh, my God, it's him." The next moment, all the soldiers turned to Wang Yunxiao, their eyes filled with surprise. Even Carter was no exception, his eyes flickering. "Return to your formation." After the soldiers' surprise subsided a little, Phelps gave Wang Yunxiao another order. "Yes." Wang Yunxiao calmly stood at the far right of the line, unfazed by the attention of the soldiers, nor did he feel any arrogance. He had long since mastered the art of facing it all. General Patton once said, "Wars are won with weapons, but they are won with men. We will win, because we have the best soldiers." Next, As one of the principal leaders of the Strategic Scientific Corps, Phelps naturally offered a morale boost. But when his gaze fell on Steve, his words of encouragement paused. He couldn't understand why Erskine would be so drawn to this frail little man. And they will be even better. Phelps shifted his gaze from Steve and continued, "You are all the best men selected from various corps, and our goal is to build the strongest army in history. So, work hard, boys." "Yes," the soldiers chorused, their expressions proud and solemn. "I'm working hard on a new project, aiming to update around 6,000 to 8,000 words daily, and strive to complete it. I hope new and old readers will continue to support Yunxiao by bookmarking and subscribing." Chapter 12 Training and Dispute. "Now, dismiss." Afternoon training begins. Phelps finished his speech and dismissed the soldiers. He and Carter walked away side by side, seemingly having something to say. "Hey, men, you're the lone hero. They say your physical fitness is 3 times better than ours. How did you do that? Cool. Do you really know Chinese Kung Fu? That's amazing." The soldiers immediately surrounded Wang Yunxiao, asking him questions. They were filled with admiration and curiosity about Wang Yunxiao. Steve, a diminutive figure, was completely squeezed out. Even trying to greet Wang Yunxiao was impossible. He could only watch helplessly with a wry smile. "Hi, everyone. Please take care of me from now on." Wang Yunxiao didn't act like he was the boss, but politely greeted everyone, responding to their enthusiasm. "What a bullshit kung fu. I think it's just so-so." Suddenly, an untimely voice rang out, and the scene fell silent. Everyone scrambled to find the source of the voice, only to discover it was none other than Hodge, the man Carter had recently beaten. He glared at Wang Yunxiao with a defiant expression, his words etched with defiance, as if he were trying to redeem himself from Kate. Everyone exchanged glances, and the scene fell into an awkward silence. Some, however, seemed to enjoy the spectacle, unconcerned with anyone's amusement. Of course, if Wang Yunxiao were the one to make a fool of himself, they would be even more delighted. "Oh? Wanna try?" Wang Yunxiao raised his eyebrows slightly, a half smile on his face. He was never one to accept defeat. "Okay. Be careful, though. My fists are pretty powerful." Hodge curled his lips in disdain. In his opinion, Wang Yunxiao wasn't particularly strong, and even if he was, there were certainly limits. Most importantly, he was incredibly confident in his own martial arts skills. Seeing this, everyone immediately formed a large circle, surrounding Wang Yunxiao and Hodge, leaving them ample space. "Come on." Wang Yunxiao beckoned Hodge to attack first. "You're looking for death?" Hodge, truly enraged, charged at Wang Yunxiao like a raging bear. Wang Yunxiao didn't shy away, suddenly leaping forward and delivering a punch that landed first, solidly colliding with Hodge's chest. Bang! With a muffled thud, Hodge's massive form flew backward, landing on the ground with a thud, unable to rise for a long moment. Although Wang Yunxiao had some remaining strength in this punch, it was still a powerful one, clearly intended to teach Hodge a lesson and, at the same time, to intimidate everyone and prevent future trouble. There was no way around it. The military wasn't a place to hide one's weaknesses, it always prioritized survival of the fittest. "Oh, my goodness, that's impressive," everyone couldn't help but exclaim in amazement. Several people rushed over to check on Hodge. It wasn't because they were kind-hearted, but simply because they didn't want a vicious brawl to break out on their first day at camp. They were also involved. But if they could anticipate it, how could Wang Yunxiao not have? Facing the gazes of amazement and awe, Wang Yunxiao shrugged, walked towards Steve outside the circle, and said with a smile, "Hi, Steve, nice to see you again." "Yeah, I didn't expect you to be so capable," Steve replied with a smile, not showing any embarrassment at the huge gap between them, which only made Wang Yunxiao admire him even more. "I believe you will succeed too," Wang Yunxiao said with a smile. To others, these words might have sounded like solace, but only he knew that this was a matter of time. "I believe it too," Steve smiled confidently. He never lacked confidence in himself. He believed that as long as he worked hard, he would succeed. Of course, his understanding of success was different from what Wang Yunxiao described. After all, he could predict the future. That afternoon, with Carter's return, the brutal and hellish training began. This was truly hellish training. Carter was truly ruthless. The training he devised was utterly inhumane, leaving these elite soldiers, hand-picked from various armies, groaning in agony. Only Wang Yunxiao could handle it with such ease. As for Steve, it went without saying, he was practically tortured to the point of near death. Sometimes, Wang Yunxiao couldn't help but admire his perseverance. He wondered how he managed to persevere with his frail frame. But perhaps because Steve and Wang Yunxiao had a good relationship, no one deliberately troubled him. Over time, many of them developed a certain admiration for Steve's perseverance. Carter, in particular, would sometimes glance at Steve with a hint of emotion. Could it be that she had fallen for him at that moment? However, while Steve's performance was admired by many, including Phelps, he remained steadfastly opposed to Erskine's selection of him as the first candidate for the Rebirth project. While Phelps acknowledged Steve's perseverance, his physical condition was far too poor, and 3 months of grueling training wouldn't change anything. Phelps believed Wang Yunxiao was the best candidate, and after observing him for 3 months, he wholeheartedly endorsed him. That day, Phelps and Erskine clashed again over the selection process for the Rebirth project, with neither convincing the other. This dispute had repeatedly delayed the Rebirth project. In reality, the super soldier serum had already been perfected and ready for testing. The main reason for this delay was the unexpected presence of Wang Yunxiao. Without him, Phelps might have relented long ago, and even Erskine wouldn't have hesitated. Indeed, not only Phelps, but even Erskine himself harbored some hesitation. After all, Wang Yunxiao was so exceptional, with a physique 3 times that of an average person, that even he couldn't ignore him. Fortunately, Erskine remained steadfast in his conviction that Steve was the best candidate, otherwise, he might have relented. If that were true, it would be a huge commotion. That's how it is. Neither Phelps nor Erskine could convince the other, and given their resolute stance, the others had even less say. If Wang Yunxiao knew this was the case, he would definitely be in a state of confusion and withdraw. Speaking of which, he still finds it strange that at this point in the original story, Steve should have already become Captain America. I'm going all out on this new project, striving to update around 6,000 to 8,000 words daily to ensure the book is complete. I hope new and old readers will continue to support Yunxiao and bookmark and subscribe. Chapter 13 Candidates Confirmed. Phelps and Erskine were at loggerheads over the selection of personnel for Project Resurrection. Erskine offered a quiz, which Phelps agreed to, and the two headed for training camp together. Meanwhile, on the training grounds, Carter was giving a speech, pointing out the soldiers' shortcomings in their training. This was a rare moment of rest during the day. Though they saw Phelps and Erskine approach, the soldiers remained focused, daring not to slack off for even a moment, fearing Carter's reprimand. Phelps nodded in satisfaction, then picked up a grenade and threw it at the soldiers, shouting, "Grenade!" The sound, like a thunderclap, rang through the soldiers' ears, instantly setting their nerves on edge. Seeing the grenade land right between Kate and the soldiers, without hesitation, scurried for cover. Wang Yunxiao immediately wanted to step forward and kick the grenade away, but then he suddenly realized, wasn't this Steve's bravery and self-sacrifice captivating everyone? He stopped immediately and waited for the situation to unfold. At the same time, he breathed a sigh of relief, thinking to himself, is it finally starting? As expected, Steve's reaction was also extremely fast, almost as fast as Wang Yunxiao's, and even Carter couldn't match him. However, his physical fitness was still a little lacking. By the time he rushed to the grenade, he had no time to pick it up and throw it again. So, he went all out, curling himself up on it and shouting, "Grenade! Get out of the way!" Quick, however, after waiting for a long time, the grenade under Steve's body still didn't explode. The soldiers couldn't help but look out of their cover, looking at each other in confusion. So, this is just a test. Steve looked confused, but he quickly realized what was happening and turned his gaze to Kate. Unfortunately, Kate was also confused and couldn't give an answer. Phelps and Erskine hadn't consulted her before the test. "Yes, Steve, congratulations on passing the test," Erskine approached with a smile, pulled Steve up from the ground, and patted him on the shoulder. He glanced smugly at Phelps, convinced he'd made the right choice. HMPH, Phelps's expression sullen. He stepped closer to Wang Yunxiao and asked in a low voice, "Did you do that on purpose?" "Yes, Colonel, I didn't smell any gunpowder on that grenade," Wang Yunxiao shrugged, also lowering his voice. His 5 senses were superior to others, a fact not unknown throughout the Strategic Research Corps. "Damn it. You don't know what you're missing out on," Phelps glared at Wang Yunxiao and strode away angrily. Watching Phelps walk away, Wang Yunxiao's lips curled up slightly as he murmured, "Of course I know. Hey, Wang, what are you and the Colonel doing?" Steve approached, his words beginning to falter with a hint of worry. He could clearly see that Phelps was furious after leaving. "It's okay," Wang Yunxiao waved his hand nonchalantly, saying sincerely, "Steve, congratulations. Your wish will soon come true." "Oh, thank you." Steve thanked him with a smile, but he was still a little confused. Honestly, he was still a little confused. It was just a test, first Erskine, then Wang Yunxiao. Why were everyone congratulating him? Before long, Phelps and Erskine had returned to the office. Erskine, beaming, said, "Phelps, you finally agree this time, right?" "No," Phelps shook his head. "I admit that the little guy has a strong spirit, but I still insist. His health is too poor. There's a high probability the test will fail." "Oh, no, we agreed." Erskine's smile faded, and he exclaimed in dissatisfaction. Phelps remained silent. For a moment, neither of them spoke, staring at each other, the atmosphere in the office becoming extremely awkward. "Look," Erskine said after a long pause, breaking the silence. "I can let Wang Yunxiao participate in the experiment, but as a second choice, if anything goes wrong with Steve, he can take over directly. Is that okay?" Phelps remained silent, but he also knew that this was Erskine's biggest concession. He said reluctantly, "If you insist, then it's settled." Erskine breathed out, finally calling out Phelps's stubbornness. But little did he know that, in Phelps's mind, he was just as stubborn. "Well, I'll go back and prepare immediately, and you can notify Steve and Wang Yunxiao." As if afraid that Phelps would change his mind again, Erskine hurried away. "Fuck," Phelps cursed under his breath. He was furious, and the mere sight of Steve and Wang Yunxiao irritated him, so why would he bother informing them? He ordered Carter to be summoned and handed the matter over to him. As the camp's instructor, Carter naturally knew about the Rebirth project. She had been eagerly anticipating it, especially after hearing that Steve was the candidate for the experiment. She immediately found Steve and Wang Yunxiao and escorted them away from the camp. It was then that Steve learned of the Rebirth project and understood the purpose of their brutal, hellish training. Hearing that he was the first candidate for the Rebirth project, Steve's claim to not be nervous was unfounded. He spent the entire afternoon in suspense, chatting with Wang Yunxiao intermittently in the hope of easing his nerves. Although Wang Yunxiao tried to comfort him, it was clear that her efforts were ineffective. Perhaps Steve didn't fear death, but he inevitably felt a fear of the unknown. It was human nature. That night, Erskine found Steve and planned to have a good communication with him. He seemed to have calculated that Steve would be nervous about tomorrow's experiment. Not to mention Steve, how could he not be nervous? Before the experiment was successful, even he could not completely let go of the nervousness in his heart. Erskine knew even more clearly that if he could not eliminate the nervousness in Steve's heart, it would very likely affect tomorrow's experiment, and he did not want to leave any uncertainties. "Hello, Dr. Erskine, are you here to see Steve? It happens that I have something to go out for a while, so you two can chat." Wang Yunxiao naturally knew what Erskine was here for, so he decided to leave the time to them and not get involved. Go all out to open a new pit, strive to update about 8,000 words every day, and try to ensure the completion of the book. I hope that new and old readers will continue to support Yunxiao and collect and subscribe more. Chapter 14, The Birth of Captain America. When Wang Yunxiao returned to the dormitory, Erskine had already left. He glanced at Steve, who was sitting on the edge of the bed in a daze, and greeted him. "Hi, Steve, how are you feeling? Are you feeling better?" "Oh, I'm fine." Steve was awakened and was silent for a moment before he asked in a low voice, "Wang, do you think I'm the right candidate?" "Of course. Don't you already have the answer in your heart?" Wang Yunxiao asked back with a smile. But Steve frowned slightly, looked directly into Wang Yunxiao's eyes, and said in a deep voice, "I think you are the most suitable candidate." "Not only me, I believe many people think so, Steve. Believe me, I'm not suitable." Wang Yunxiao shrugged and smiled. "At least, the doctor thinks so, doesn't he?" "Tell me, what did the doctor tell you?" "The doctor said that he chose me because I have experienced being weak, and I know how to cherish my strength. I will not abuse my strength to bully the weak," Steve muttered softly, still a little unsure in his words. "That's right," Wang Yunxiao said seriously. "Listen, Steve, you're compassionate, resilient, and willing to sacrifice. You're the perfect candidate. Don't overthink it. Give yourself a little more confidence. You'll succeed. I'm sure of it. Perhaps, you're right. Steve's expression shifted slightly. He lay back on the bed, staring blankly at the ceiling, lost in thought. Wang Yunxiao, not saying anything more, also laid down and soon fell asleep. Tomorrow will be exciting. The next morning, Carter arrived and drove Steve and Wang Yunxiao to the secret laboratory. As they passed the familiar streets, Steve reminisced about his childhood. Wang Yunxiao and Carter knew he was trying to ease his nerves, so they played along, chatting him up. No matter how well he'd prepared himself, nerves were inevitable when the time came. Finally, the car pulled into Brooklyn and stopped in front of an antique shop. Of course, the antique shop was just a facade. A hidden world lay beneath. Beneath the grounds lay a large, secretive research facility belonging to the Strategic Science Department, the site of the final human trials for the Rebirth Project. Carter exited the car first, followed closely by Steve and Wang Yunxiao, and the three of them entered the antique shop one after another. Before entering, Wang Yunxiao casually surveyed the streets and, as expected, spotted several suspicious individuals. However, he kept quiet. Rather than ferreting out these spies, he was more concerned with the birth of Captain America. After exchanging signals with the elderly woman inside, Carter led the two into a study. The bookshelf before them clicked with a mechanical sound and slowly opened, revealing a large laboratory. As the three entered, the thick iron door closed automatically behind them. Passing through a long corridor, they finally reached the basement laboratory, where they saw busy researchers in white coats. So far, no incidents had occurred, indicating that the experiments were proceeding normally and that Wang Yunxiao was no longer needed as a backup. So, Wang Yunxiao, led by Carter, ascended to the observation room above. By then, a number of people had already gathered in the observation room, all dressed in fine attire. They were either high-ranking military and political figures or wealthy individuals who had invested in the Rebirth Project. Of these, Wang Yunxiao only recognized one, Phelps, whose expression remained sullen. Phelps ignored him, clearly still furious. Looking down at the lab below, Steve, at Erskine's instruction, had already stripped off his shirt and laid down inside the experimental device. Not far away, Erskine and Howard were discussing something in front of a large, complex apparatus. The Rebirth Project required more than a simple injection of the super soldier serum, it also required activation through the device. Don't underestimate this process. The power consumption of this device alone, to say nothing of anything else, was equivalent to the entirety of New York City's daily electricity consumption. And of course, in the United States at that time, only Howard could invent and manufacture such an experimental device. Therefore, no one understood it better than he did, and the responsibility of operating it was well deserved. Moreover, he was one of the investors in the Rebirth Project. Erskine soon took the microphone and delivered an impassioned speech. The experiment officially began, with 6 doses of super soldier serum injected into Steve. Then, at Erskine's signal, Howard activated the experimental device. The chamber erupted in a blinding light, blinding anyone who could see directly. Under Erskine's direction, Howard gradually increased the device's power, making the light increasingly glaring. Steve couldn't help but let out a shrill scream as the power reached 60%. No. Stop! Carter rushed to the front of the observation room, shouting anxiously, completely unconcerned about whether Erskine could hear her in the lab. But Erskine clearly wasn't ready to continue. Though disappointment wore a veil on his face, he managed to speak with difficulty. Stop the experiment. Shut it down. No. Don't stop. I can hold on, trust me. Steve's words suddenly echoed from the chamber, his tone so resolute that it was impossible to refuse. That, all right. Erskine hesitated for a moment, then made up his mind. He spoke to Howard in a low voice, raised the power to 100, okay. Howard gave Erskine a deep look and suddenly raised the power to 100%. The next moment, an even brighter light burst forth from the chamber. Then, with a crackling sound of sparks, the experimental equipment short-circuited. Bang! Chiss! The chamber opened automatically, filling the air with a white mist that obscured the view of what lay within. After a long moment, as the mist gradually dissipated, a half-kneeling figure, covered in beads of sweat, emerged into view. If it wasn't Steve, who else could it be? Boy, you did it. Erskine and Howard stepped forward together and helped Steve up. Yes, I did it. Steve was panting, but his face was full of excitement. When he stood up, He was 185 centimeters tall, with bronze skin, exaggerated chest muscles bulging high, 8 abdominal muscles like granite, and a strong lower body that stretched his original pants so tight that it seemed like it would burst at any time. Wow, it worked. It's awesome. Huge cheers broke out in both the laboratory and the observation room. Wang Yunxiao's mouth corners also curled up slightly, revealing a happy smile. Captain America was finally born, and he could finally carry out the subsequent plans. Go all out to open a new pit, strive to update about 8,000 words every day, and try to ensure the completion of the book. I hope that new and old readers will continue to support Yunxiao and collect and subscribe. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 15 Super Soldier Serum. Everyone rushed out of the observation room and into the lab, eager to get a close-up look at Steve, the successful super soldier. It was truly magnificent, wasn't it? Boom. But then, a sudden, violent explosion echoed from the observation room, shattering the entire place. The massive aftermath sent everyone stumbling. Just as everyone was in a state of chaos, a figure suddenly burst out, snatching up the lab's only remaining tube of super soldier serum. Pulling out a pistol, he fired 2 shots at Erskine and Howard, then fled without a moment to check the results. Wang Yunxiao, quick-witted, tackled Howard, dodging the fatal bullet. Actually, Erskine was closer. While Erskine had fulfilled his historic mission, successfully creating Captain America, the future Iron Man had yet to be born. Howard couldn't be left like this. Wang Yunxiao simply couldn't imagine what the Marvel Universe would be like without Iron Man. It completely contradicted his future plans. Bang, 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 fierce gunfire rang out, the spy clearly struggling to escape the secret laboratory. Behind him, Carter desperately pursued him. Duck? Duck, are you okay? Steve's anxious voice echoed from a distance. It seemed Erskine was doomed. As expected, Erskine was now completely exhausted, unable to utter a single complete sentence. He could only gaze deeply at Steve, reaching out with difficulty to tap his chest. I know, Doc. Steve sadly laid Erskine's body flat on the ground. He abruptly stood up, his eyes blazing with rage, and rushed out. No matter what, he would catch the murderer and avenge Erskine. Hey, men, thanks for saving my life. Meanwhile, Howard, still trembling, came to his senses and gratefully thanked Wang Yunxiao profusely. You're welcome, Wang Yunxiao nodded calmly. He quickly trotted over to Phelps's side, helped him up, and asked, Colonel, are you okay? I'm fine, Phelps called anxiously. Quick. Wang, go. No matter what, you have to get the serum back. His primary concern was the super soldier serum. Now that Erskine was dead, this might be the only super soldier serum in the world. Yes, Wang Yunxiao obeyed, and without hesitation, he gave chase. When Wang Yunxiao rushed out of the antique shop, there was no sign of the spy and Steve. Instead, at the end of the street, Carter's figure was desperately chasing them in one direction. Unfortunately, Wang Yunxiao was unfamiliar with Brooklyn, or New York City in general, and couldn't take a shortcut, so he could only chase Carter. Wang Yunxiao soon caught up with Carter, but unfortunately, Carter had also lost him. She could only rely on her familiarity with the terrain and the source of the gunfire to pursue. There was no other way. The spy had hijacked a car, and Steve's speed was superhuman. How could she, relying solely on 2 legs, catch up? Wang Yunxiao had to rely on herself. Although he was unfamiliar with the terrain, his 5 senses were sharp, and he managed to keep track. When Wang Yunxiao reached the promenade along the riverbank, he saw Steve in a standoff with a spy. The spy was holding a child hostage, with a gun to the child's head, making Steve hesitant. Ignoring the confrontation, Wang Yunxiao, relying on memories from a previous life movie, leaped into the river and swam rapidly towards the target. Fortunately, he chose the right direction. Just ahead of him, at the bottom of the river, lay a highly advanced small submarine. Just as he swam above the submarine, it began to rise. As the submarine surfaced, a figure leaped over. Who else could it be but the spy? Confused by Wang Yunxiao's composure atop the submarine, the spy's reaction was impressive. He raised his gun and prepared to fire, but he was no match for Wang Yunxiao. With a single encounter, Wang Yunxiao easily subdued the spy. There was no way around it, the difference between the two was too great. Wang Yunxiao immediately searched the spy and was surprised to discover 2 bottles of super soldier serum. A moment's thought revealed the other one, clearly one he had prepared in advance. With a sudden thought, Wang Yunxiao came up with an idea. He retrieved the more concealed bottle, which looked more like the real thing. Instead of keeping it close to his body, he casually lowered it to the riverbed. Who knew if he would be searched upon his return? It was just basic procedure, but the super soldier serum was a serious matter. As for whether it was genuine, Wang Yunxiao had no idea. Having never encountered such a thing before, he could only rely on his instincts. However, this was merely a spur-of-the-moment decision, a matter of luck and loss. The next moment, Steve caught up and breathed a sigh of relief when he saw the spy subdued by Wang Yunxiao. Glancing at the submarine beneath them, he felt a surge of relief. Without a word, Wang Yunxiao tossed the spy toward Steve. As luck would have it, the bottle of super soldier serum in the spy's arms landed right at the mouth of a sewer manhole, shattering instantly, allowing the serum to flow down the drain. Steve paid no attention to the super soldier serum. His rage was focused on the spy, intent on interrogating the masterminds and the other spies lurking in New York. Steve was doomed to disappointment. Seeing no chance of escape, the spy simply cried out, "Hail Hydra," and bit down on the poison hidden within his teeth, dying instantly. Wang Yunxiao, who had returned to shore, sighed softly and patted Steve on the shoulder, but offered no comfort. "Let's leave this difficult task to Carter." Soon, Carter and other agents from the Strategic Scientific Research Force arrived, but it seemed that there was nothing left for them to do, so they could only seal off the scene. The spy was dead, and the only super soldier serum was gone. Phelps, who received the news first, angrily threw the phone in his hand, but he had nowhere to vent his anger. Could he still blame Wang Yunxiao, or Steve? Fortunately, there was Steve, the new super soldier, and the rebirth plan was not a complete failure. But what's the use? What they want is a complete super soldier, not a lone one. What effect can this have on the entire war situation? I will go all out to open a new pit, strive to update about 8,000 words every day, and try my best to ensure the completion of the book. I hope that new and old readers will continue to support Junzio and collect and subscribe. Chapter 16 Superhuman Blood. With Carter's comfort, Steve quickly regained his composure. He was determined to pursue his dream, which was also Erskine's wish. He wanted to go to the front lines, contribute his part to quelling the war, and completely eradicate Hydra. Unfortunately, he was doomed to disappointment. It must be said that the Americans were truly adventurous. They had already begun to exploit Steve's super soldier image, creating a Captain America production, with recurring performances and issuing treasury bonds. Needless to say, Steve's torturous days began. During the day, he was forced to undergo various tests and examinations, and at night, he had to perform on stage with a group of dancers. A super soldier, he was reduced to a clown. He was powerless to resist. Not only him, but even Phelps, one of the key leaders of the Strategic Scientific Division, was equally helpless. Speaking of which, Steve's current physical condition was truly exceptional, 10 times better than that of an average person, and his recovery was astonishing. Every day, tubes of blood were drawn, but after a few hours rest, he'd be back to full health, as if nothing had happened. This, in turn, gave Wang Yunxiao an opportunity. After much deliberation, he decided this method was the safest, far more secure than simply sucking Steve's blood directly. After several days of scouting, Wang Yunxiao, dressed in nightgown, quietly sneaked into the military hospital where Steve's plasma was stored. The recent incident had put the Strategic Scientific Corps at a standstill for a while, and Wang Yunxiao had been given an unusual leave of absence as a reward. After toiling for most of the night, meticulously and cautiously, Wang Yunxiao finally secured Steve's plasma. Looking at the 2,500 cc of plasma in his hand, Wang Yunxiao's mouth widened with excitement, his zombie fangs baring. All he had to do now was find a safe place to drain the blood. He had already purchased a property in New York City for this day, complete with a basement over 10 meters underground for maximum safety. Returning home and descending into the basement, Wang Yunxiao spread 5 bags of plasma, each containing 500 cc, out on the table. To ensure the plasma's freshness, he even used a straw. This was the first time he had handled the bags of plasma with such care. As the blood entered his stomach, Wang Yunxiao felt a surge of warmth coursing through his limbs, nourishing every cell in his body. His body grew increasingly hot, a sensation he had never experienced since becoming a zombie. Zombies are of the yin element, and even in the scorching heat of summer, they felt no stifling heat. Roar! Wang Yunxiao roared to the sky, his fangs bulging, his face becoming unnaturally ferocious, veins bulging all over his body. This wasn't some inhuman agony he was enduring, but rather an overwhelming sense of relief and comfort coursing through his body. The euphoric feeling was indescribable. Unfortunately, this exhilarating, refreshing feeling faded just as quickly, vanishing before Wang Yunxiao could savor it. Before Wang Yunxiao could even feel disappointed, he was stunned by the surge of power coursing through his body. He silently sensed his physical fitness, which had increased by over 10 times that of an average person. This situation was like a Captain America remake. Testing his 5 senses again, he saw no noticeable improvement. This led Wang Yunxiao to speculate that perhaps, by sucking blood, he could also absorb beneficial genes. Whatever the reason, knowing that it would significantly enhance his strength was enough. After the excitement wore off, Wang Yunxiao checked the zombie blood within him. While it had improved significantly, it was still a long way from a breakthrough. Clearly, 2,500 cc of Steve's plasma alone was far from enough. Perhaps, draining Steve dry would make a huge difference? After much deliberation, Wang Yunxiao decided against it. As always, Steve, as one of the most powerful figures in the Marvel Universe, shouldn't be dealt with lightly. If you were to lead to a major boss like the Ancient One, the Sorcerer Supreme, that would be a real mess. Furthermore, Wang Yunxiao couldn't even think about getting Steve's blood anymore for a while. After tonight's incident, it would undoubtedly alert the military and the strategic scientific force, prompting both to deploy tight defenses and perhaps even set traps. Regardless, Steve's plasma proved to Wang Yunxiao that metahuman blood was far more effective than that of ordinary humans in boosting his strength and advancing his zombie bloodline. He silently calculated that Steve's 2,500 cc of blood alone was equivalent to the blood of hundreds of living humans, not counting their superpowers. What if it were even more powerful metahumans? Mutants? Do mutants exist in this world? Thinking of metahumans, Wang Yunxiao couldn't help but ponder them. After all, as part of the Marvel Universe, who could say for sure that this world didn't have mutants? Mutants, after all, are a form of superhuman, and their numbers are immense. If they possessed the same effect, it would be a real surprise for Wang Yunxiao. And the Inhumans, then, Wang Yunxiao thought of the equally numerous Inhumans. Both were genetically engineered products of aliens, the only difference being that one was the Celestials, while the other was the Kree, one of the 3 great empires. More importantly, both mutants and Inhumans possessed a wide variety of superpowers, some of which even Wang Yunxiao coveted. Whether mutants existed in this world was unclear, but one thing Wang Yunxiao was certain of: since this was the Marvel Cinematic Universe, there must be Inhumans. The problem was that the vast majority of Inhumans long ago migrated to the far side of the moon, leaving only a few on Earth and making them extremely difficult to find. Given Wang Yunxiao's current situation, targeting them was difficult. Mutants were easier to find, which meant he needed to quickly verify their existence. New York, New York. I remember Professor X lived in New York, right? And Mystique. Wang Yunxiao thought of the famous Charles Xavier and Raven Darkholme, both of whom lived in New York as children. I'm going all out on this new project, aiming for around 8,000 words per day to ensure it's complete. I hope new and old readers will continue to support Yunxiao by adding more books and subscribing. Chapter 17: The Existence of Mutants. New York is a vast city, with a population in the millions. Finding someone based solely on a name is incredibly difficult, unless Wang Yunxiao mobilized the resources of the Strategic Research Corps. But he didn't want to do that. Not only would he be unable to explain his reasons, but it would also likely expose some of his most hidden secrets. So, he had to rely on himself. From that moment on, Wang Yunxiao began to consider forming his own faction. If he had his own power, any actions or inquiries he might make would be much easier. However, this wasn't something that could be done overnight. It required careful planning. For now, Wang Yunxiao had to work on his own. Fortunately, he remembered that Professor X Charles Xavier's family was incredibly wealthy. To be able to afford a mansion in a metropolitan city like New York, They were clearly among the richest. This would make the search much easier. Sure enough, in just 3 days, Wang Yunxiao finally found the Xavier Manor. However, it appeared to have been vacant for a long time, with no signs of habitation. But now that he had found the manor, following its clues to Charles's new home would be a breeze. That evening, Wang Yunxiao found Xavier's mansion and spotted Charles from afar, returning home from school. With that, he was finally certain that mutants existed in this world. Wang Yunxiao secretly observed Charles for another 2 days, but to his dismay, he found no sign of Raven Darkholme, Mystique, beside him. It seemed they hadn't met yet. This posed a significant headache for Wang Yunxiao. Charles might only be a teenager, but with his awakened psychic powers, he wasn't an easy target. Though a 4th-generation zombie with physical prowess 10 times greater than that of an average person, he lacked any effective defenses against his psychic powers. After much hesitation, Wang Yunxiao decided not to alert the enemy until he was absolutely certain. After all, obtaining Charles's blood without a trace was practically impossible, and he had no intention of harming him, for the same reasons as Steve's. If Charles discovered Wang Yunxiao's unusual behavior, it would undoubtedly be another major problem. Professor X, the leader of the X-Men, one of the 2 major mutant factions of the future, would undoubtedly lead to trouble if you were to target him. As for Mystique, she hadn't appeared yet, so finding her would be a challenge, so he had no choice but to give up. Then there was Charles's friend, Eric Lensher, the Magneto leader of the Brotherhood, one of the 2 major mutant factions of the future. Barring any unforeseen circumstances, he would likely be imprisoned in Auschwitz. While Eric possessed no psychic powers and had only recently awakened his magnetic control, he posed no threat to Wang Yunxiao. However, the crucial point was that he was currently the exclusive lover of Sebastian Shaw, a level 4 mutant at his peak, and clearly not someone Wang Yunxiao could afford to provoke. That left Wang Yunxiao with only John Schmidt, also known as Red Skull, who had also been injected with a super soldier serum. Though his injection was an imperfect version, the power he gained was no less than Steve's. In comparison, he was a pushover, wasn't he? Perhaps, as one of the leaders of the vast, globally influential Hydra organization, Red Skull wouldn't be easy to deal with. But Wang Yunxiao, familiar with the plot, wasn't worried at all. He knew that soon, Steve, now Captain America, would form the Howling Commandos to fight Hydra, and Red Skull would ultimately be doomed. All Wang Yunxiao had to do was wait and see, and he should be able to easily obtain Red Skull's blood. He had no qualms about dealing with such a supervillain. Given the right circumstances, he could even suck him dry. That evening, before returning to the barracks for leave, Wang Yunxiao went to see a performance. Watching Steve on stage, dressed in the familiar Captain America suit he remembered, dancing and singing like a clown, truly left him speechless. "Hi, Wang," Steve awkwardly greeted Wang Yunxiao backstage, spotting him. "Hi, Steve, the show was great," Wang Yunxiao replied dryly, truly at a loss for words. "Yet, it's just improvisation. Practice makes perfect," Steve said, spreading his hands and self-deprecatingly. "Don't be like that, buddy. I heard you're America's new hope now," Wang Yunxiao could only offer as comfort. "That's true. Treasury bond sales are up everywhere I go. It's definitely more meaningful than being cooped up in a lab." Steve's smile was forced and helpless. "Don't worry, Steve, believe me, this won't last long. There's a saying back home, gold will always shine." Wang Yunxiao patted Steve on the shoulder, offering him earnest encouragement and support. "Thank you," Steve nodded gratefully. Steve, just as Steve was about to say something else, shouts echoed from nearby. The next performance was about to begin. "Sorry, Wang. Let's talk again next time when we have time." Steve, still incredibly dedicated, even though he disliked his current job, immediately rushed to the stage. "Good luck, men," Wang Yunxiao shrugged, once again admiring the American's ability to have fun, before turning and leaving the theater. The next day, Wang Yunxiao had just returned to the barracks when he was informed that they would be formed into a special forces unit to support the front lines, departing that afternoon. Now that the rebirth plan had been terminated, these elite soldiers, carefully selected from various regiments, naturally couldn't remain idle. Returning to their original regiments wasn't ideal, so being deployed to the front lines was the best and inevitable outcome. Wang Yunxiao had no objection. Although he now had a better option, no longer needing to drink the blood of ordinary people, Blood was still essential for daily survival, and obtaining it on the battlefield was undoubtedly more convenient. Since returning to New York, Wang Yunxiao has mostly been forced to steal plasma, even expired, which has nearly made him malnourished. I'm going all out to write a new story, aiming for around 8,000 words a day, to ensure it's finished. I hope new and old readers will continue to support Yunxiao by adding more books and subscribing. Chapter 18 Return to the Battlefield. 3 days later, the Special Forces team arrived at the Austrian border battlefield. Smoke filled the air, and the flames of battle raged on for days. The sounds of artillery fire, explosions, and machine gun fire woven into a familiar symphony of death. None of the Special Forces were battlefield rookies, and the brutal scenes before them didn't faze them in the slightest. Colonel Albert, 2nd Lieutenant Wang Yunxiao, reporting with his Special Forces team, in the barracks. Wang Yunxiao, led by the soldiers, met the commanding officer, Colonel Albert. As the highest-ranking and most powerful member of the Special Forces, he naturally assumed the position of team leader. Excellent. We've been waiting for you. Albert's eyes flickered with joy. He knew that Wang Yunxiao's Special Forces were the elite of the elite, carefully selected from various military corps and undergoing brutal, infernal training. Albert's expression then darkened again, and he said in a deep voice, "2nd Lieutenant Wang Yunxiao, the situation is urgent. There's no time for rest. You must engage immediately." "Yes, Colonel." Wang Yunxiao obeyed solemnly, his face devoid of any discontent. "Excellent. Then take up your weapons and go shoot those bastards." Albert nodded with satisfaction. He immediately summoned his adjutant, ordering him to lead Wang Yunxiao and the others to the front lines of the battlefield. At that point, the American troops were being crushed by the Germans, who were now showing off their might. However, the situation was about to change, as the Special Forces were about to arrive. With a series of muffled gunshots, 3 German heavy machine gun positions were eliminated. Suddenly, the German firepower dropped significantly. "What are you still standing there for? Waiting for the new year? Get into the fight." Wang Yunxiao lowered his sniper rifle and angrily shouted at the dazed Special Forces behind him. The Special Forces finally recovered their senses and immediately seized advantageous positions, engaging in fierce fighting. After all, they were elite soldiers. They didn't need instruction on how to fight. They had simply been stunned by Wang Yunxiao's precision and speed. With the Special Forces' arrival, the tide of battle had shifted dramatically. While the U.S. military couldn't completely reverse the situation or seize the initiative, they were still locked in a close fight with the Germans. All this happened in a flash, and the U.S. troops on the front lines had barely recovered their composure, staring blankly at the sudden arrival of the Special Forces, especially Wang Yunxiao, who was firing with pinpoint accuracy. "Oh my God! Who are you?" some U.S. soldiers couldn't help but exclaim. "Support. Stop staring blankly, fire quickly," a Special Forces soldier replied without turning back, his hands still twitching, his machine gun blazing with a da-da-da sound. Oh, the American soldiers on the front lines finally came to their senses and rejoined the battle. As time passed, the American soldiers on the front lines, aided by the Special Forces, finally seized the initiative on the battlefield, overwhelming the Germans. "Oh my God, guys, you're incredible. Who the hell are you?" one American soldier exclaimed in amazement, calling out to the Special Forces soldier beside him in a familiar voice. "Strategic Scientific Force. Hey, buddy, have you heard of them?" The Special Forces soldier, no less arrogant, responded in kind, even engaging in casual conversation. While the others didn't share their composure, they also relaxed, listening to their banter as they continued fighting. It was clear how relaxed everyone was at that moment. "Oh, damn. It's a tank. Those damn bastards actually drove a tank over here." Suddenly, a cry of terror shattered the relaxed atmosphere. Everyone looked out to see a massive, iron-like vehicle barreling toward them from behind the German lines. "Fuck. What a beast, what a lunatic," the American soldiers cried out in agony. The Special Forces soldiers, while not quite as distraught, wore grimaces. Wang Yunxiao didn't panic. He immediately sought out the commander of the forward position, a captain, and urgently asked, "Hey, men, do you have any armor-piercing rounds or any weapons that can deal with that iron-like vehicle?" "No. We don't have any of that here." The captain's face paled, his utter terror choking him into a low curse. "Those idiots from the intelligence department can't even tell us the Germans have tanks." "Enough. Stop cursing," Wang Yunxiao impatiently interrupted the idiot. He was a captain? Did he buy his rank? Now, gather all the grenades. I'll take on that iron-like vehicle, Wang Yunxiao shouted, sweeping his gaze around the group. But, will this work? Grenades against tanks, that's impossible, someone cried in disbelief, not entirely convinced by Wang Yunxiao's words. Nonsense. If it doesn't work, you do it. Wang Yunxiao glared at the man who had spoken, then shouted, quick. Hurry. Don't waste any more time. The Special Forces soldiers immediately sprang into action, gathering their grenades into the cloth bag in front of Wang Yunxiao. They had trained with Wang Yunxiao for over 3 months and were quite convinced of his power. Then, the American soldiers followed suit, gathering their grenades into the cloth bag as well. Perhaps it was Wang Yunxiao's calmness, and even that of the Special Forces soldiers, that rekindled their composure and eased their panic. Wang Yunxiao surveyed the situation outside the trench. The tanks were closing in, only 100 meters away. Everyone take cover, Wang Yunxiao ordered. Then he grabbed the cloth bag in front of him and darted out of the trench, braving a barrage of bullets and charging towards the tanks. Wang Yunxiao observed the terrain of the battlefield while calculating in his mind. He rushed forward at a speed that was sometimes fast and sometimes slow, but he miraculously avoided the bullets one by one. Oh my god, is he Superman? In the trench, some people who were extremely curious did not hide as they were told, but instead stuck their heads out to see what Wang Yunxiao would do. The result left them stunned and they couldn't help but let out bursts of exclamations. It was getting closer and closer to the tank. Wang Yunxiao could even clearly see every line on the black muzzle of the tank. Wang Yunxiao jumped and rushed into the trench, as if he had disappeared on the battlefield. The next moment, the tank rolled over from above. I will do my best to open a new pit, strive to update about 8,000 words every day, and try my best to ensure the completion of the book. I hope that new and old readers will continue to support Yunxiao and collect and subscribe. Chapter 19 The Name of the God of War. Boom. Boom boom boom. First, a deafening roar, followed by a series of even louder explosions. Boom. The tank above the trench was lifted high into the air, then slammed back down to the ground, sending up a cloud of dust. At the same time, thick smoke billowed from the tank's interior. A strange scene unfolded on the battlefield. Both the American and German troops forgot to fire, staring blankly at the overturned tank. Da-da-da, the clatter of gunfire shattered the eerie atmosphere. From the trench not far away, a dusty Wang Yunxiao emerged from the trench, holding a machine gun he had picked up, and was the first to sound the attack. I knew this guy would be fine, a Special Forces soldier cried out in shock, raising his machine gun again and unleashing a barrage of bullets. Oh my god, this is unbelievable, the American soldiers exclaimed in disbelief, and they too launched their attack. A dense barrage of bullets, weaving like a net, enveloped the German troops, completely crushing them. Though they quickly recovered, the memory of their overturned tanks lingered in their minds, crushing their morale and rendering their counterattacks futile. Seizing this opportunity, the American forces launched a massive advance. Wang Yunxiao and his special forces were at the forefront, ruthlessly tearing through the German front lines like a sharp knife. The Germans were beaten back step by step, ultimately leaving behind only their cold corpses as they withdrew from the battle, unwillingly declaring defeat. Victory! Damn you tax bastards, come again, the American troops roared, celebrating this hard-earned victory. Rear-line troops soon arrived to clean up the battlefield, and the brave American troops on the front lines began to retreat to their camps in an orderly manner to rest and recuperate. Surrounded by the crowd, Wang Yunxiao returned to camp like a hero. He was greeted with thunderous cheers. In the United States, hero worship is paramount. And his performance in this battle earned him the title of hero, a title he truly deserved. Well done, Second Lieutenant Wang Yunxiao. You are our American hero, Albert personally approached, his expression visibly excited, patting Wang Yunxiao's shoulder. This is all I should have done, Wang Yunxiao said calmly, without a trace of arrogance. No. It's because of you that we won this battle, Albert excitedly exclaimed. Rest assured, Second Lieutenant Wang Yunxiao. I've reported your heroic performance to the military, and I'm sure the military's reward will be issued soon. Thank you, Colonel. Wang Yunxiao politely nodded in thanks. Naturally, he had no reason to refuse the military's reward. To build one's own power, fame and wealth were essential. And so, Wang Yunxiao rose like a comet, joining the battlefield on the Austrian border with dazzling brilliance. With just one battle, He earned the sincere admiration of the American troops on the front lines. In the ensuing battles, Wang Yunxiao shone like the sun, always stepping up at crucial moments and helping the U.S. military secure victory after victory, both large and small. In just a few months, his numerous military exploits earned him a promotion to major, enough to command an entire corps and led small-scale battles. However, he showed little interest in this endeavor. While he desired to build his own power, he didn't want to base it on the military, as this would inevitably lead to future troubles and constraints. Consequently, Wang Yunxiao's reputation as the god of war spread throughout the U.S. military and even the world. The Allies naturally rejoiced at the prospect of possessing such a powerful god of war, while the Germans, deeply wary of him, sought to eliminate him as soon as possible. On the Austrian border battlefield, despite successive U.S. victories, casualties mounted, with even the special forces accompanying Wang Yunxiao suffering over half their casualties. Fortunately, a steady stream of reinforcements arrived from the rear, allowing the U.S. military to hold out. Otherwise, no matter how brave Wang Yunxiao was, it would have been useless. After all, modern warfare isn't fought alone. That day, the regiment that arrived to support the Americans caught Wang Yunxiao's attention. For no other reason than that it was the 107th Regiment, the regiment Steve had dreamed of joining, and the one his good friend Bucky served in. Sure enough, in the 107th, Wang Yunxiao ran into Bucky, whom he had met twice before. The reunion of old friends was naturally a lively occasion, especially with Wang Yunxiao's reputation as the god of war spreading throughout the United States. "Oh, Wang, is it really you? I never thought the renowned god of war would be my friend." Bucky excitedly embraced Wang Yunxiao and patted him on the back. Although he didn't show any sign of shyness, Wang Yunxiao could still sense the tension in his body. "Yet, you're flattered. Perhaps this will be a big help in hooking up with those innocent young ladies." Wang Yunxiao shrugged and casually joked. "Oh, no. Trust me, men, that will definitely put them off." Seeing this, Bucky relaxed completely and joked back, "Also, I want to emphasize that I never pick up innocent young ladies. I like the charm of young women." "Okay, you're such a jerk," Wang Yunxiao scolded with a laugh. "No. It's just that you don't know how to enjoy life," Bucky said righteously, not feeling ashamed at all, but rather proud of it. After the joke, Bucky asked about his best friend's situation, asking, "Wang, when did you leave New York? Do you know what's going on with Steve?" Wang Yunxiao didn't answer, but instead asked, "Why, don't you ever read the newspaper?" He gave Bucky a strange look. After all, in the United States these days, Captain America is just as famous as Wang Yunxiao's god of war. Wang Yunxiao's reputation as the god of war was more celebrated within the military, while Captain America was a household name. Not many people paid attention. "You know, our 107th Regiment is like a fire brigade, running around providing support. I don't even have enough time to rest, so how could I possibly have the energy to pay attention to all that?" Bucky complained. "Have you heard of Captain America?" Wang Yunxiao asked again. "You mean the clown?" Bucky became increasingly confused by Wang Yunxiao's questions. Indeed, the so-called Captain America, to those of them fighting on the front lines, was nothing more than a clown. On weekdays, they just treated him as a joke or a topic of conversation after dinner. "I'm going all out on this new project, striving to update around 8,000 words daily, and to ensure the book is complete. I hope new and old readers will continue to support Yunxiao by adding more books and subscribing." Chapter 20, Hydra appears. Okay, Wang Yunxiao suppressed a smile. He really wanted to see what Bucky's expression would be when he found out Captain America was actually Steve. It would be quite amusing. Hey, men, what do you mean?" Just looking at Wang Yunxiao's sinister expression, he knew he was up to something. He said with a hint of annoyance, "I was asking you about Steve's situation. Why are you talking to me about Captain America?" He couldn't fathom how the two could possibly relate. "Steve's fine, and miraculously, he's undergone a second growth," Wang Yunxiao said meaningfully. After some thought, he decided not to unravel the mystery yet. Perhaps the scene would be more interesting when they met in person. "What second growth? Wang, what are you doing? You're so secretive," Bucky muttered in dissatisfaction. But he could see it was difficult to get anything out of Wang Yunxiao. But knowing that Steve was fine was enough. Woo, woo. Just then, the shrill sound of sirens wailed, interrupting the joy of their reunion. This situation meant only one thing, a military emergency, a German surprise attack. "Hey, guys, talk next time," Wang Yunxiao hurriedly said, then hurried off, heading for his assigned post, the front lines of the battle. Enemy attack! Enemy attack! Everyone, weapons ready, prepare for battle immediately. At the same time, shouts from officers from various units echoed in unison. For a moment, the camp was in a state of chaos and confusion. Clearly, this German surprise attack had caught them completely off guard. Boom boom boom, da da da. By the time Wang Yunxiao had rushed to the front lines, the fighting was already raging. The Germans, like someone on Viagra, had already breached the American army's first line of defense. From afar, Wang Yunxiao could see that the Germans had indeed taken Viagra this time. Oh, no. They must have changed their weapons. Azure lasers easily ripped through the American army's protective gear and even its fortifications. The Americans were completely defenseless and were driven back, their counterattacks rendered powerless. More crucially, the Germans also possessed numerous massive, high-tech tanks, yet they appeared anything but cumbersome. With each volley from their black muzzles, dozens of meters of ground were reduced to scorched earth. Damn it! It's Hydra. Wang Yunxiao instantly recognized the origins of these new weapons and massive tanks and cursed. But faced with this situation, even he was powerless. While Wang Yunxiao remembered that Bucky's 107th Regiment had been annihilated and captured by Hydra, he had never imagined that battle would take place today. At this very moment, although Wang Yunxiao knew he was outmatched, so many on the battlefield were watching him. If he simply retreated without a fight, not only would his reputation as a god of war be ruined, but he would also likely be convicted of desertion after the war, becoming a despised pariah. If that were to happen, all his previous efforts would be wasted. Bang, 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 Wang Yunxiao gritted his teeth and, without further hesitation, quickly found a secluded position, set up his sniper rifle, and began firing rapidly. His marksmanship was as accurate as ever, instantly blasting several German soldiers in the head. However, before Wang Yunxiao could continue firing, the sense of danger within him suddenly surged, reaching a peak. He immediately tumbled towards the trench, not even paying attention to his sniper rifle. Bang! As soon as Wang Yunxiao dodged, a ball of blue light blasted down his position. The earth trembled, and the fortifications were instantly vaporized, leaving behind a vast expanse of charred earth. Damn! Such a powerful force, the trench Wang Yunxiao had taken refuge in collapsed, burying him deep underground. Hiss! Buried deep underground, Wang Yunxiao gasped, gnashing with pain. Even though he'd sensed the danger and taken refuge in the trench, he was still caught in the blast's blue light, burning most of his body to char. If it weren't for his zombie body and his exceptional physical fitness and resilience, comparable to Captain America's, he would have died long ago. Even so, Wang Yunxiao's full recovery would take dozens of hours, and would require a significant amount of blood. Fortunately, this was a battlefield, and blood was in no short supply. As for time, that wasn't a problem at all. He had no intention of facing those advanced weapons before recovering. After all, he was buried deep underground, perfectly safe. The battle overhead gradually receded, soon fading to halt. Without even looking, Wang Yunxiao could guess that the American forces had likely been annihilated, with only a handful escaping. There was no way around it. Hydra's advanced weaponry was truly flawed in this era. Time slipped by, and Wang Yunxiao, trapped in endless darkness, lost all sense of time. Negative emotions like coldness and desolation constantly lingered in his heart, tormenting his resolve, yet he dared not move, persevering with all his might. Who knew if the Germans had left? It was best not to suspect them, as they were now eager to devour him. Only after his injuries had fully healed, and flesh had grown back on the charred half of his body, did Wang Yunxiao cautiously emerge from the mud. It was already late at night, and the battlefield was in ruins, with no trace of the Germans left. Damn Hydra, you deserved to be annihilated. Wang Yunxiao sprawled on the cold earth, breathing in deep gulps of fresh air and cursing furiously. Since crossing into this world, he had never suffered such a heavy loss. Thinking back on it now, he still felt a lingering fear. If he hadn't dodged in time, he would have been dead by now. Next, it should be Captain America bravely breaking into the Hydra base alone to rescue his best friend and those captured American soldiers. Calming down, Wang Yunxiao considered what would happen next and how he should act. He wouldn't let this go after suffering such a heavy loss. If he didn't teach Hydra a lesson, they'd think they were Kitty. After a long pause, Wang Yunxiao suddenly jumped to his feet, identified a direction, and scurried away, his speed as fast as a ghost, especially in the middle of the night. I will do my best to open a new pit, strive to update about 8,000 words every day, and try my best to ensure the completion of the book. I hope new and old readers will continue to support Junzio and collect and subscribe. Chapter 21 Behind Enemy Lines. Despite a recent victory, the German garrison along the Austrian border remained relentless, with guards stationed every 3 steps and every 5 steps, posing significant challenges to Wang Yunxiao's infiltration. Taking down this German outpost might not have been too difficult for Wang Yunxiao, but the noise it would have made would have put him at risk of a full-scale manhunt by a large German force, clearly hindering his subsequent infiltration. And what about bypassing it? Mountains and dense forests flanked the outpost, delaying him immensely. Wang Yunxiao's recovery had already taken considerable time, and who knew when Steve would cross into Austria? He was being flown in directly. If he was delayed too long and missed the opportunity, what good would it have been to infiltrate the area? Despite the tight timeline, Wang Yunxiao remained cautious, carefully observing the situation within the outpost. The outpost's defenses weren't flawless, and given the late hour, he still managed to find a flaw. Though the slightest flaw was subtle, it was enough for Wang Yunxiao, whose 5 senses far surpassed those of an average person. He crouched low, then, seeing the perfect moment, leaped forth. Like a nimble cheetah, he ran and leaped without a sound, and in a few leaps, he had passed the sentry post without alerting anyone. Wang Yunxiao breathed a sigh of relief. Though the series of actions had been completed in just a few minutes, the effort had been immense, even for him. This place was too close to the sentry post to stay for long. He adjusted himself briefly before sprinting forward. But before he could take a few steps, he collided head-on with a German sentry. For a moment, the two stood face to face, staring at each other in an awkward moment. Damn! I was so careless, Wang Yunxiao silently blamed himself, but his next reaction was swift, as he lunged at the German sentry. Simultaneously, the German sentry reacted, drawing the Nepalese saber from his waist and lunging at Wang Yunxiao. Compared to a saber, a firearm undoubtedly packs a greater punch. However, at such close range, Wang Yunxiao clearly wouldn't give him time to draw his weapon or aim, so the saber was more effective. Unfortunately, the German sentry, while quick-witted and armed with a sharper blade, was no match for an inhuman like Wang Yunxiao. In a single encounter, he was easily subdued, becoming Wang Yunxiao's bloody rations. Cool, Wang Yunxiao muttered with a sense of satisfaction, dropping the now mummy-like German sentry to the ground. Having finally come across a solitary, unfortunate individual, how could he let him go? This is the famous dog-leg knife. It looks quite impressive. Wang Yunxiao picked up the Nepalese saber from the ground and fiddled with it, creating a few beautiful strokes. He nodded with satisfaction. He retrieved the scabbard from the German sentry's body, returned it to its leather sheath, and hung it at his waist. Next, Wang Yunxiao needed to advance deep behind enemy lines. It was best to avoid using firearms if possible, as that would make too much noise. Therefore, a sharp saber like this was clearly more suitable. Furthermore, before continuing deeper into Austria, he still had to deal with the mummified remains of the German sentries. This was a simple matter. Digging a pit and burying them wasn't a difficult task for Wang Yunxiao. After dealing with the remains, Wang Yunxiao continued his advance, maintaining his pace but remaining vigilant. Who knew if another German sentry might appear? In just half an hour's journey, Wang Yunxiao encountered several German sentries. While their blood was tempting, he chose not to kill them all, so as not to attract the Germans' attention. He avoided all he could, avoiding only those who happened to stand in his path and became his blood rations. Once they were far from the Austrian border, having encountered no more German sentries for a long time, Wang Yunxiao could finally breathe a sigh of relief. Spreading out the map he'd seized from the German sentry, Wang Yunxiao's eyes quickly scanned it, searching for a suitable route. If he remembered correctly, the Hydra base in Austria should be in Krasberg. Honestly, he wasn't entirely sure. It had been ages since Wang Yunxiao last watched Captain America, and who could possibly remember every detail of a movie? He only remembered the name Krasberg thanks to his current zombie form, which had greatly enhanced his mental power and memory. But having a specific direction was better than aimlessly trying to find the right path, right? For now, Wang Yunxiao could only try his luck and assume the Hydra base was in Krasberg. The route Wang Yunxiao had chosen wasn't through deep mountains or remote trails, but along well-traveled roads. While German troops were bound to pass along such a route, he was confident he could detect them in advance and evade them in time. Moreover, if he did encounter a German military vehicle traveling the same way, a ride would be a good option. In countless TV dramas and movies Wang Yunxiao had seen in his previous life, hadn't the protagonists who penetrated deep into enemy encampments always done the same? Even Captain America, didn't he hitch a ride with a Hydra soldier to infiltrate the base? Furthermore, Wang Yunxiao had personally verified that this method was indeed feasible and extremely convenient. However, the exhaust fumes from those vehicles were truly unpleasant, making him choke. As for the bumpy ride, that wasn't a big deal, considering his physique was 10 times superior to that of an average person. And so, with the help of the German military's ride, Wang Yunxiao had already reached dozens of kilometers outside Krasnitzberg in just one day. For the rest of the journey, he feared it would be difficult to find a ride. More importantly, Hydra has imposed martial law from this point on, with patrols coming and going from time to time. However, this also indirectly confirms one thing: Hydra's base is indeed in Krasnberg. Wang Yunxiao finally found the right destination. In broad daylight, although Wang Yunxiao is confident that he can successfully infiltrate, there is still the risk of being exposed. After all, Hydra's advanced technology is not easy to use. So, it is better to wait until night. Perhaps the infiltration method used by Captain America is a good option. I will go all out to open a new plot, strive to update about 8,000 words every day, and try my best to complete the book. I hope new and old readers will continue to support Junzio and collect and subscribe. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 22: Joining Steve. Boom boom boom, da da da. The intense sound of artillery fire and heavy machine gun fire awakened Wang Yunxiao from his deep sleep in the dense forest. Having decided to act at night, Wang Yunxiao had found a spot under a tall tree and rested for a while. He hadn't had time for a proper rest these days. Deep behind enemy lines, the intense concentration was too much for even the toughest man. Wang Yunxiao looked toward the source of the sound. A small private plane circled high in the dark night sky, dodging bright flames. Suddenly, a figure seemed to leap from the plane, dodging the barrage of bullets before deploying a parachute. The plane also circled, rapidly swooping off into the distance. Cool. A skilled low-altitude parachuting expert, Wang Yunxiao muttered in admiration. He knew who the figure was. Who else could it be but Steve, the man who had come to rescue his best friend? What a coincidence. But this makes the next move much easier. Although Wang Yunxiao hadn't expected Steve to arrive at this time, the outcome was a welcome relief for him. Steve would surely be a valuable helper now. Climbing expertly from the treetops, Wang Yunxiao pinpointed Steve's landing direction and dove in swiftly. It was his 5 senses that were far superior to those of an average person, otherwise, anyone else would have struggled to pinpoint Steve's landing spot. When Wang Yunxiao arrived, Steve was rapidly stowing his parachute, lest he be spotted by the Hydra and exposed. Who? Steve's movements suddenly faltered, his gaze warily to the left, and he quickly reached for his shield. Good vigilance. Okay, calm down, it's me, Wang Yunxiao chuckled softly, striding out. He hadn't intended to hide, otherwise, even Steve wouldn't have been able to detect him. Wang, Steve looked at Wang Yunxiao in disbelief, rushed over quickly, grabbed his shoulders tightly, and said excitedly, "Is it really you?" I thought, having said that, he couldn't continue. It was too unlucky. Did you think I died in the battle? Wang Yunxiao smiled and said, "Fortunately, I was lucky enough to be buried under the rubble and escaped. I'm glad you're okay." After a brief excitement, Steve quickly calmed down and asked in confusion, "What's going on? I heard from Carter that you have been winning victory after victory, and the German army has been unable to raise its head. How come suddenly?" "Oh, don't mention it," Wang Yunxiao sighed lightly and muttered, "That day, the German attack was too sudden and caught us off guard. In addition, they were using the latest new weapons of Hydra, and our equipment could not compete with it at all. It was simply a completely unequal massacre. It's all over." Wang. Don't worry, we will definitely avenge our dead comrades and let the German army and Hydra pay for their blood debt with blood. Just listening to Wang Yunxiao's narration, Steve couldn't help shivering and patted his shoulder comfortingly. So, Bucky, Steve couldn't help but ask what concerned him most, the most important reason for his trip. He was so nervous at that moment, even his voice trembled uncontrollably. I don't know, Wang Yunxiao shook his head apologetically, looking directly into Steve's slightly disappointed eyes. But I heard that most of the 107th Regiment was captured by Hydra and is being held in their base. I think Bucky should be fine too. Yes, I believe he'll be fine, Steve said firmly. He just couldn't tell if he was truly confident or just trying to comfort himself. Okay, don't overthink it. Now, let's find a way to infiltrate the Hydra base and rescue them, Wang Yunxiao said firmly, his face solemn. Yes, that's why I'm here, Steve said with the same determination. Then, the two of them continued their cautious and stealthy progress until they finally saw the gate of the Hydra base in the distance. However, this was a Hydra base, after all, and the security was incredibly tight. The Austrian border post couldn't compare. The nearly 3-meter-high walls were covered in barbed wire, and armed guards stood every 3 steps and every 5 steps. Directly above the gate, 2 massive searchlights illuminated the ground 10 meters in front of the base like daylight, leaving no blind spots or loopholes. Damn it, Steve cursed under his breath. Faced with such a tight defense, he felt completely helpless. Don't worry, listen carefully, Wang Yunxiao remained calm, not only because he was familiar with the plot, but more importantly, he could hear the sound of cars approaching from miles away. Steve calmed down and soon heard the approaching car. The two exchanged glances, each reading the other's intentions. They held their breath, waiting for the 2 trucks to pass before they simultaneously sprinted out and leaped into the canvas-covered back compartments. The entire process was seamless, alerting no one except the 2 Hydra soldiers already in the back of the vehicle. The 2 Hydra soldiers were about to shout, but were instantly killed by the swift hands of Wang Yunxiao and Steve. Wang Yunxiao's men, undeterred, immediately began stripping the uniform from the dead Hydra soldier. A soft bang was heard, and looking up, Steve had already flung the other Hydra soldier's corpse into the dense forest outside the back of the vehicle. Steve, having clearly witnessed Wang Yunxiao's actions, exchanged a bewildered glance, a scene of utter awkwardness. Ah, you're still too young? Wang Yunxiao muttered softly, continuing his work. He quickly stripped the Hydra soldier's uniform from the corpse and expertly put it on himself. Steve's face darkened, and he quickly turned his head as if nothing had happened, pried open a crack in the canvas covering the back of the truck, and observed the situation outside. The truck drove into the Hydra base unimpeded and stopped in front of a door that looked like a warehouse. Then, a Hydra soldier walked to the front of the back of the truck, patted the canvas, and signaled the people inside to get down quickly and start working. Wang Yunxiao pulled open the canvas, and Steve made a lightning-fast move, grabbed the collar of the Hydra soldier, and lifted him into the back of the truck. I will do my best to open a new pit, strive to update about 8,000 words every day, and try my best to ensure the completion of the book. I hope that new and old readers will continue to support Junzio and collect and subscribe. Chapter 23 Target Red Skull. Wang, what should we do next? Steve asked in a low voice in the dimly lit back compartment, his eyes fixed on Wang Yunxiao without blinking. No matter how strong he was now, this was his first time participating in such an infiltration operation, and he had no experience to speak of. Now that he had met Wang Yunxiao, he naturally regarded him as the backbone, just like back in the training camp. This place is quite large, we need to split up. You go rescue Bucky and the others, and I'll find a way to destroy all of Hydra's new weapons. They're too dangerous. If we can kill Red Skull, that would be even better. Wang Yunxiao already had an idea in mind, and he whispered without hesitation. Indeed, Wang Yunxiao had come here with the sole intention of killing Red Skull. He wasn't going to have a good ending, and he was a major villain. Taking him out first shouldn't be a big deal, right? As for the Red Skull's premature elimination, Captain America would likely be prevented from becoming a 70-year-old frozen ice cube, which would undoubtedly have significant consequences for the future. But that wasn't something Wang Yunxiao considered. Whether Wang Yunxiao admitted it or not, whether he did it intentionally or not, it would inevitably have some impact on the world. As the saying goes, if you've traveled through time and space and don't change the plot, what's the difference between you and me? Crucially, the Red Skull, a ruthless individual, constantly yearns for world domination and the destruction of all who oppose him. It was obvious that no matter how Wang Yunxiao looked at it, he would be considered his enemy. Was Wang Yunxiao simply expected to stand by and do nothing, passively waiting for Captain America to rescue him? This clearly didn't align with Wang Yunxiao's character. He preferred to take the initiative, and given the opportunity, he wouldn't hesitate to nip danger in the bud. And wasn't today a golden opportunity? Understood. Be careful, Steve nodded emphatically, then scurried out of the back of the car, disappearing into the night. Why don't you remember? Wang Yunxiao glanced at the corpse of the new Hydra soldier at his feet, sighing slightly in frustration. He then adjusted his attire and swaggered out of the back of the car. His Hydra garb concealed him well, so he didn't need to worry about revealing his identity. Wang Yunxiao didn't rush into action, but simply strolled through the Hydra base, observing the terrain. Honestly, his action seemed a bit abrupt, but no one stepped forward to stop him or question him, which made him sigh. The Hydra skins really work. Thinking back to Steve, he muttered to himself, it might look cool, but can it really make a living? Having surveyed the base's terrain, Wang Yunxiao headed towards a building. The most heavily guarded area was the research building, presumably where Red Skull was. As for why Wang Yunxiao didn't just follow the routine and plant a bomb to destroy the advanced technology here, he clearly remembered how Red Skull, upon discovering Captain America's intrusion, had immediately abandoned the area and activated the self-destruct mechanism, intending to take the entire base and Captain America with him. Therefore, this guy was a dangerous individual. Arriving at the building, before the Hydra soldiers guarding the gate could approach for questioning, Wang Yunxiao shouted, "Hail Hydra! Hail Hydra!" The guards immediately erupted in frenzied shouts. Dropping their rifles and clenching their fists, raising them horizontally to their chests, then raising them overhead, then horizontally again, before finally lowering them. This series of actions filled Wang Yunxiao with shame. If it weren't for the public, he would have wanted to shoot these two idiots. "Soldier, what are you doing here?" Though the soldiers guarding the gate had their brains broken, they still knew to stay at their posts and didn't let Wang Yunxiao in easily. "We've spotted Captain America in the base. I need to report this to the leader as soon as possible." Without a second thought, Wang Yunxiao sold Steve out. Captain America. The soldiers at the gate looked at each other, unable to react for a moment. Who was Captain America? The guy in the US who's been injected with a super soldier serum. The leader's been keeping an eye on him. Wang Yunxiao was helpless and could only patiently explain. Woo, woo. As if to confirm Wang Yunxiao's words, a shrill alarm suddenly sounded inside the base. Upon hearing the alarm, the soldiers at the gate nervously drew their high-tech rifles, as if Captain America had already charged before them. They made no attempt to stop Wang Yunxiao, instead making way for him and saying, "It's him. Where is he? Soldier, you've done a service. Go in and report to the commander, quite quick," Wang Yunxiao muttered to himself as he entered the building, quickly making his way down the corridor toward the elevator. The building was heavily guarded, with sentries every 3 steps and sentries every 5. Every few minutes, teams of soldiers armed with Hydra high-tech weapons patrolled the area. The piercing alarm heightened the soldiers' vigilance, but they didn't question Wang Yunxiao too much, allowing him to pass unmolested. Da-da-da, bang, boom, boom. At that moment, bursts of gunfire rang out outside the building. It seemed Steve had successfully rescued the prisoners of the 107th Regiment, and the two sides began exchanging fire. Despite the chaos outside, the soldiers inside the building didn't rush out to help. Instead, they stood guard, their weapons raised, even more vigilantly. This must have been the order Red Skull had given them. Boom, with a resounding bang, the building's door burst open, and Steve, a blue figure bearing a shield, rushed in. Apparently, he hadn't found his good friend Bucky among the prisoners of the 107th Regiment, so he'd follow the clues they'd provided. Da-da-da, immediately, a barrage of gunfire erupted, and blue lasers blazed at Steve. Steve's current shield, not the special vibranium shield Howard had given him, was completely powerless against this high-tech weaponry. Fortunately, he had quick reflexes and dodged into a room, seeking another opportunity to eliminate the enemy. Wang Yunxiao didn't bother turning back to help, but simply entered the elevator and pressed the button for the top floor. Red Skull must be there. Remember in the original novel, after triggering the self-destruct mechanism, he took the plane from the top floor and fled. "I will do my best to open a new pit," strive to update about 8,000 words every day, and try my best to ensure the completion of the book. I hope new and old readers will continue to support Yunxiao and collect and subscribe. Chapter 24, First Battle with the Red Skull. Ding. With a crisp ringtone, the elevator stopped at the top floor and the door slowly opened. Hold. Hands up. Wang Yunxiao was greeted by several Hydra soldiers, each holding a high-tech rifle. Hey, guys, is there some misunderstanding? Wang Yunxiao raised his hands with a grin, speaking in English that the soldiers couldn't understand. The next moment, Wang Yunxiao took a sudden step forward, approaching a soldier and striking him with a knife. The soldier, responding with a blow, fell flat on his face, breaking his neck. Plop. Plop. 2 more muffled groans followed, and 2 more soldiers fell to the ground, breathless. Bang, bang, bang. The remaining 2 soldiers finally reacted and pulled the triggers of their high-tech rifles, firing a stream of azure lasers. However, Wang Yunxiao's movements were so fast that they didn't even have time to aim, leaving them firing aimlessly. Wang Yunxiao no longer looked at the corpses of the soldiers. Following his memory, he crossed a long iron bridge and arrived at a high-tech steel gate. The gate was so tightly sealed that it made it impossible to enter. Just as Wang Yunxiao was at his wit's end, the gate suddenly swung open, revealing 2 figures, one tall and one short. Although it was only their first meeting, Wang Yunxiao recognized them instantly: his target, Johann Schmidt, known as Red Skull, and Dr. Arnim Zola, Hydra's foremost genetic engineer. No. It wasn't their first meeting, he had already seen them in a movie in his previous life. Whoa, who is this? Isn't this our god of war? Schmidt's face lit up with a maniacal smile, clearly recognizing Wang Yunxiao. Zola, without a word, turned and left. The self-destruct sequence had been activated, and he didn't want to stay here any longer. That's truly exciting. Without even glancing at Zora as she left, Smith continued nervously, "You know what, God of War, I'm a huge fan of yours. It seems Dr. Erskine has finally succeeded. What a beautiful work of art. Come on, I'm not Captain America." Wang Yunxiao shrugged. He suddenly leaped forward, instantly reaching Smith and delivering a punch. He didn't want to hear this guy's endless whining. Bang! Smith hadn't expected Wang Yunxiao to strike so quickly. Caught off guard, he was sent flying, slamming heavily onto the nearby test equipment. But his second reaction was swift. Without even trying to get up, he kicked forward, meeting Wang Yunxiao's incoming punch. Bang! Another muffled thud as foot and fist collided solidly. Smith's entire body was mired in the test equipment, sending up a shower of sparks. Wang Yunxiao, involuntarily, took several steps back before regaining his balance. Really strong. Even stronger than Steve. Wang Yunxiao's heart trembled, but he didn't relent, charging forward once more. He couldn't afford to give a man like him even a moment to breathe, or it would be extremely dangerous. Smith, equally outmatched, leaped from the test equipment and charged at Wang Yunxiao. Bang! Facing Wang Yunxiao's heavy fist, Smith didn't flinch, letting it land on his body while simultaneously backhanding a punch to Wang Yunxiao's face. Wang Yunxiao, unwilling to trade injuries with Smith, turned his head to evade the blow while raising his other hand to block. However, he forgot that Smith also had 2 hands, and Smith's punch landed heavily on his chest. The result was the same, injury for injury, no significant difference. Clang. Clang. Wang Yunxiao and Smith were sent flying backwards simultaneously, collapsing 2 pieces of experimental equipment. Damn it! This mad dog, Wang Yunxiao cursed, a fierce gleam in his eyes, his ferocity aroused. Zombies, by the way, were never good-tempered. When it came to ferocity, they were no less ferocious than any other species. The next moment, Wang Yunxiao and Smith fell silent as they fiercely pounced upon each other, punching and kicking, attacking each other like crazy. Bang, bang, bang. The dull thuds were like rapid drumbeats, as the 2 inhuman monsters ripped the entire laboratory to pieces in a flash. Crackle, sparks flew from each piece of experimental equipment. Boom, boom, boom. Then, violent explosions echoed throughout the laboratory, the equipment finally unable to hold on and exploding one after another. Seeing this, Wang Yunxiao quickly withdrew, unwilling to perish alongside this man, Smith. Smith didn't pursue him either, evidently calm and undeterred. God of War, we'll meet again. I'll prove to you that I am Dr. Erskine's greatest creation. In the firelight, Smith tore off the artificial skin covering his face, revealing his crimson, skull-like visage. Well, this guy had completely renounced his human identity. Without waiting for Wang Yunxiao to say anything, Smith turned and walked off in the direction Zoro had left. There, Zoro had already started the plane and was waiting for him. "I told you, I wasn't created by Erskine," Wang Yunxiao muttered silently. While disappointed by Smith's escape, he didn't take it too seriously. He had already made up his mind during their initial encounter. This time, he was going to have a hard time defeating this guy. Unless he, like this guy, recklessly revealed his zombie identity, perhaps there was still a chance. Boom, an even more violent explosion echoed, shaking the entire building. This wasn't the test equipment, but the self-destruct sequence that Schmidt had activated. Wang Yunxiao didn't dare to linger any longer and rushed out, only to be confronted by his best friend Steve and Bucky. He said speechlessly, "Hey, this place is about to explode. What are you doing here? Are you going to watch the fireworks? You know it's going to blow up, and you're still talking nonsense." Steve grumbled, grabbed Bucky, and ran. The three of them rushed to the window, broke through it without hesitation, and jumped out. Fortunately, it was only the 4th floor, otherwise even with Wang Yunxiao and Steve's physical strength, they would have broken bones. As for Bucky, who was still relatively normal, he landed safely with only scrapes, protected by Wang Yunxiao and Steve. "I will do my best to open a new pit, strive to update about 8,000 words every day, and try my best to ensure the completion of the book. I hope new and old readers will continue to support Junzio and collect and subscribe." Chapter 25 Homecoming. Meanwhile, the battle raged on the square of the Hydra base. The released prisoners of the 107th, like wounded beasts, frantically seized the advanced weaponry, even the massive tanks. But the Hydra soldiers were brainwashed fanatics, fearless and equally frantic. Steve and Bucky quickly joined the fray, but they didn't hesitate. They raced out of the base, shouting, "Run! Run! This base is about to self-destruct." His voice, high and mighty, echoed throughout the square, his lung capacity truly astonishing. The prisoners of the 107th were startled by the sight, then quickly recovered. No longer willing to fight, they rushed out of the base, led by the massive tanks. Boom! 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 Amidst a continuous roar of violent explosions, the entire Hydra base erupted in flames, illuminating the dark night sky like day. The ground was shaking, and even though Steve and his group had already run a long way, they were still shaken by the tremors. Amidst the flames, a large truck rushed out of the Hydra base, its canvas covering the back of the truck still blazing with sparks. Whoosh! With a sharp brake sound, the truck stopped beside Steve and his group. "Hey, guys, don't be nervous, it's me." Under everyone's vigilant gaze, Wang Yunxiao poked his head out of the cab. "Hey, Wang, what are you doing? This big truck can't carry so many of us." Steve looked at Wang Yunxiao in confusion. He really couldn't understand why, at such a dangerous moment, Wang Yunxiao was still desperately trying to grab a large truck. "Please, this is full of new Hydra weapons. Take some back and give it to Howard to study. He might find a surprise." Wang Yunxiao glared at Steve and urged, "Alright, stop standing there. Go put out the fire." "Oh." Steve scratched his head awkwardly and quickly climbed onto the canvas covering the back of the truck to put out the flames one by one. Afterwards, without a moment's rest, the seriously injured were loaded onto large trucks or tanks, while the less seriously injured were helped along. They immediately set off across the Austrian border. After all, this was German-occupied territory, and the longer they delayed, the more dangerous it would be. They gritted their teeth and persevered, not daring to delay, rushing as fast as they could. Even so, their journey home was not smooth. Numerous men fell victim to German interceptions. This was only thanks to the dedicated efforts of Wang Yunxiao and Steve, otherwise, their losses would have been far greater, and total annihilation was a possibility. Afterward, they seized several German troop carriers, and the dire situation began to improve, their speed finally increasing significantly. Naturally, the Germans were unwilling to let them go. They mobilized whatever troops they could find and set up numerous checkpoints along the border, waiting for them to fall into their trap. The Germans were determined to keep them all, while they desperately sought to break through the German blockade. A fierce battle was inevitable. Although Wang Yunxiao and his group had giant tanks leading the way, the Germans were well rested and had considerable firepower, making the breakout extremely brutal. The entire operation lasted less than half an hour, but Wang Yunxiao and his group had paid a heavy price. Including the seriously injured, fewer than 100 men remained. Fortunately, the giant tanks were sturdy enough, with 3 remaining. Not a single troop carrier remained. As for the large truck Wang Yunxiao had desperately managed to recapture, he and Steve managed to keep it together. Excellent. In this brutal breakout, Wang Yunxiao and Steve's primary concern wasn't protecting the soldiers themselves, but rather the massive truck loaded with Hydra's latest weaponry. Call them cruel, for there are times, especially in wartime, when human life is truly worthless, even less than these cold weapons, especially those so advanced as these. The Germans, unwilling to give up, pursued them, but were easily repelled by Wang Yunxiao and Steve, who remained behind. Now in American territory, the Germans dared not pursue them too deeply, unwillingly giving up and watching them depart with resigned resignation. The remainder of the journey presented no further dangers, but their limited means of transportation, coupled with the fact that nearly half of their group was wounded, meant the march was incredibly slow. The atmosphere at the American camp closest to Austria, home to the Strategic Research Corps, was particularly tense. Not only had the Americans just suffered a crushing defeat, leaving them on the front lines, but they were also completely defenseless against the Germans' new weaponry. Furthermore, Captain America had disappeared, having vanished during a performance for the Germans. While many in the camp considered him a mere clown, Captain America held him in high regard, even as the New York congressman far away held him in high regard. This was crucial to their ability to sell their national debt. Even the New York congressman knew that Captain America had gone deep behind enemy lines to rescue captured prisoners, but had completely lost contact and remained silent. While Captain America's actions were entirely his own, even his departure hidden from the camp, it was undeniable that there were insiders who knew about the situation, and some even facilitated and aided his actions. Therefore, if anything happened to Captain America, the blame would inevitably fall on them. Senator Brandt, I regret to report that Captain America went missing behind enemy lines on the 3rd of this month. Air reconnaissance has yielded no results. Colonel Phillips, the camp's highest commander, was dictating a telegram with a gloomy expression. The corporal who sent the message stared intently, barely daring to breathe. He knew Phillips's fury was unwavering. The only sound in the tent was the crackling of the radio. At this point, I must declare Captain Steve dead. Phillips's final words grew increasingly irritated. But this had happened under his command, and Steve was his most trusted agent, offering his assistance. What else could he do? The last aerial reconnaissance has returned, and there's no news. Just then, Carter walked in, his face heavy, his eyes filled with sorrow. Corporal, go get me some coffee. Phillips's rage intensified upon seeing Carter, but he managed to restrain his outburst in front of the corporal who sent the message, finding a random excuse to send him away. I will do my best to open a new pit, strive to update about 8,000 words every day, and try my best to ensure the completion of the book. I hope new and old readers will continue to support Yunxiao and collect and subscribe. End of this chapter. Thank you so much for reading until the end. Don't forget to give it a like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription or donation encourages us to continue. Thank you all. See you in the next video.